all of us here, and it's also in line with the various gate process, various gates that we have in the process. So we're also looking at the gates that you have put down in the shop. So I'll just brief the process over here that we have in the application, and then move over to the screens in the application data, right?
All good.
So starting with gate 0 till gate 10, that's what we've seen and we know right now. And for this, definitely starting with the very beginning of the process from the commercial or the sales team, right? So we do have a process of the request coming in from the customer, that getting into a proposal or a working stage, converting that into a contract. I mean, of course, after a submission of proposal or a bid or a quote to the customer, that being converted into a contract post approval. That part, is the initial part. I'm not going to get too much into the detail. Of course, we have another session for the commercial scene separately. But having the final contract, the approved agreement with the customer, we then get down to the actual process of an individual visit from for a given engine serial, right? So for a given engine serial number, so we start with the first step, which is the pre-induction process, which is essentially even before we actually receive the physical engine into the facility. So that begins with maybe some documents that you may receive from third party or from Baroda for that matter, for the particular engine serial number. The details of the configuration is basically your the template, the sub-assemblies that are expected to be attached onto the serial number while you are receiving it. So that's what we may call as the expected configuration, the template of the engine when we receive it. And along with that, you may receive the details of your parameter values, your life limited parts list, their respective usages, any replacements that are required, service bulletins that are probably complied earlier, and also a set of service bulletins that they request you to comply for that particular visit, right? So you may receive these information about the engine even before you actually receive, even before you do the goods input here, right? Goods receipt. So that data that gets into the application that kind of helps you in the downward process of actually planning that engine's visit is what we will see in the pre-induction stage. So that's the first stage or gate 0, as we all know. That's what we will look at. So once we do have the pre-induction done, then we wait for the engine to be received. We have the engine receipt done. Once we received it, moved into the facility. We have the initial work scoping that happens, right? So based on the data of your configuration, your LLPs, the replacements required, service bulletins, and also the high-level work scope that has been requested. You also have an initial work scoping that is done, or the plan for the job that is done at that stage. And once that is done, you have it moved in for your, have it moved into your shop for execution, where the preliminary inspection is carried out, right? So you have your inspection, and once the inspection is passed, of course, you may have initial cleaning and NDT, and then you move to inspection, and then you have your disassembly that's happening. The moment you disassemble, your engine is broken down into pieces. You have multiple other places or jobs where these sub-assemblies may get moved into, and they move into the detailed repair cycle. So what you see there is induction, inspection, disassembly, then that goes on to your repair cycle, which could talk about both internal repairs, where you may move the sub-assemblies to different smaller units of work orders within the facility, or you may have certain external repairs that you send to your vendors. Certain sub-assemblies may go on a scrap, which means you have a replacement that's required to be done. Then you have your entire execution process. And along with that also comes in kitting and marshalling. Right? So you have the sub-assemblies move to different various sources, and the job of actually putting the entire engine back together starts by the process of marshalling and kitting. So you need to source various components, you need to track them on time so that they're all available on time for the assembly. So kitting, marshalling, then comes the assembly, where you put everything together, you assemble the complete engine, sub-assemblies first, and then the entire main assembly, and then you move it for testing. Right, so you may have a fixed date for your testing, so which means tracking your sub-assemblies and putting it all together as a final assembly for the testing is essential. So we will see how the production planning or the scheduling frame acts up over there. So that so once you have the entire engine tested and completed, then you move it for the post visit, where you may have certain reports that you have your on-log verification that happens, and then you finally move it out for the engine is released, and then you may also have your billing that's happening parallel. right? So that's essentially a very high level process of various gates. So this starts from gate 0 to gate 10. Um, I hope that covers the process if I'm not missed anything, right? Sorry. Right? Okay. Fine. So while all of this is happening, of course, the bottom half is also the support to the entire process where you may have your procurement and stores or your supply aiding in sourcing all of your either your spare parts or your core sub-assemblies that are probably undergoing a replacement. You may also have support from other departments, especially with respect to your maybe commercials who will probably help you with the additional the work scope upgrades that you may have, additional work scope that get into your engine work order, which has to go for a quotation and approval. So all of that also happens in the backend. But the core execution process of the engine in out, these are the steps that are pretty much important, right? Fine. So if we are in agreement with this, did you get it?
Just want to check the is the process is same in the engine division or is it a bit different?
Yeah, in general, it's actually what I was saying. But no details. Also, there's some missing process like the tutor process, the patient process.
Okay.
Also, the
Are you missing in this or in general? Okay, we have marshalling on this. That's what we mean by
that's the kitting.
yeah. So marshalling and assembly, that's it. I will show you the kitting.
And also the big picture of the to show how the process goes for the several engine. Some engine methods at the same time, so we have to finish all of the process, but for several engines. So the check engine.
Sure. Maybe another one, what that you mentioned before, related to the process during the N0, right?
Yeah.
Whereby we can already decide which one is going to be internal repair, which one is going to be external. Then what is the process here during the N0?
So when you just to clarify, when you say what is internal and external, the entire engine or just sub-assemblies?
Okay, so during the capability capacity check, right? We already know which one that do we have the capability to do the internal repair, which one is not. And based on that, we need to list down all of the vendors' capability.
Yeah.
Whereby during the gate 0,
Yeah.
we can already define which process to be start on to the next.
I think we will show that actually. So basically, as part of the disassembly, right? Okay, so we have something called, before that, there is a capability matrix, right? You have some parts we can do it internally. Some parts you don't have a capability internally, it should be sent to subcontracting outside. Or some parts can be exchanged as well, right? Okay, so
I mean, we can this is part of the demo now, so
correct. So we'll show that this is like a high level process.
Understand.
So even your point of configuration, right? Okay, to build sort of a target configuration, or let's say a sort of a technical unlock. Okay, so that we will demonstrate, but this is like just to process, how, but each of this thing will show you how it will work.
So we'll begin with the bigger master data one-time setup that we have, and then we will down to the process. So there are a few things that I wanted to show before I get into the code process. If it's visible. Yeah.
Yes.
So we begin with the configuration of the engine as such. So in Rambo, we have the capability for you to maintain your engine template configuration. So we have something at a part level, which is more of your engine template, where you may not purely have the physical components installed, but it is more of your template configuration. Right? So for an engine, what are the expected sub-assemblies that you expect under it? So that's our template configuration. So what you see here is an engine configuration which can be maintained up to multiple levels of hierarchy. So within an engine, we may initially have a major modules which can further be broken down into the next level modules and followed by that. The sub-assemblies within that and goes on. So you can have the configuration defined to any level possible, depending on the detail and the capabilities under which you track today. And the configuration is of two parts here today. So one is all your serialized components essentially, in each position of your configuration or your template, what is the serial component part that you expect to be attached into that position. So that's tracked with something called as a position part for us. So based on what you see here, it's part number, are all the expected part numbers in your template or in your configuration. While we also understand that it may not just be one part, each position can have its own interchangeable units, basically the alternates that are allowed in the configuration. So which means you have a position part, which is the expected part in the template. And along with that, we also have the alternates to it, so the interchangeable units to it. So you can also say that for a given priority, these are all the alternates. And what is, how do you define the alternate? So is it a one-way alternate or a two-way alternate? And you also get to choose whether it's a direct or a conditional alternate. Right? A direct alternate would mean that yes, they can be used in place of each other, either one way or two way. Or when you say it's conditional, you say that it is the alternate can be utilized, conditioned to a specific compliance of a service bulletin. So that's a conditional alternate. So you can also specify the criteria here, stating that a particular service bulletin is required to be compliant in order to use this particular alternate in the configuration. So for configuration, the first part or the first list is your serialized list or your components list, and against these components you can maintain your alternate definition. So those are your interchangeable units. Another set are your non-serialized units, so your piece parts, quantity control parts, right? So you would have some smaller blades that you track at this level, and as well, you just provide the expected part number, which is once again the position part of the reference part, as we call it. And what you do provide here is the expected quantity of these units that is installed on the engine. So you could have a standard quantity that you provide, or in terms of blades, your compressor stages and your turbine stages, you may have a minimum and maximum variation or a range of blade quantity that you install. That can also be tracked here where you see there's a minimum and level defined. And these non-serialized units also have their own, may also have their own interchangeability or their alternate definitions. So here as well, if you see for a given part, you may define what are these alternates. You can say whether they are one way or two-way direct, or they are conditional. Right? So your template configuration speaks about your expected sub-assemblies to be serialized or non-serialized. In case of non-serialized, you additionally provide what's the expected quantity. And all of these positions or your expected parts can be set up with their interchangeable units or your alternate parts. Right? So this is the master configuration setup, or basically your template configuration, which then is carried down to each and every engine serial number that you receive of this particular model. Is my speed okay? My so this is the part configuration that is carried down to individual serial numbers. So that's the first thing that I want to probably highlight. Configuration. So once we do have the configuration set up, I think before I get down to the process, there's one more detail that I'll take to probably speak about the, okay, I'll come back. Let's just probably ahead. Starting with the very beginning of the process, right? So skipping the process, skipping the steps of, having a customer requesting for a particular engine job, then getting into the process of working out your prices, which typically done by your commercial team, getting it approved by the customer, all of that. Assuming that we have a contractual agreement in place, and we just come down to a point where we're talking about a specific engine visit in place. So we begin with the order itself first. Starting with one, the first step of a given engine visit, right? To first of all, when you do receive the engine or before you, when you will receive the request from the customer for a particular engine visit, the first thing that gets registered into Ramco is the customer service order or your service order from the customer. Right? So this is probably something that the commercials team will set up, but this essentially starts this process by registering that you are going to receive a particular engine serial number from a third party customer or a vendor, and which is the contractual agreement with which this is going to be tied down for the entire process to be tracked and final billing and invoicing to happen. So you have the basic information of your which customer, what is your part and serial number that is going to be received, as well as tied to your specific contract. And in addition to that, you may also have your execution information or your work requested information or your work scope that is requested by a customer. So you could state what is the priority and probably specify the works, scope in terms of either a task information or in terms of any of these other attributes that we have to identify what that work scope is. And once you've done that, what you can also do here is do a quick capability check, right? So right when the order is registered, you have the capability in application, which will automatically verify if you have the right capability here to perform the requested work scope for that particular engine part of that model. Right? So where do we define this essentially? There is a once again a master setup that we will have here. There's a capability definition that happens at individual work center level. Providers at an individual work center level, which could be your shops, to define the list of parts and the respective work scope that can be carried out at that location. So with this information already set up as a master data, the system automatically evaluates for a given order that you get that you may register for a customer for an engine serial number. It evaluates whether it falls within your capability or not. If it does, then it gives you a signal that you can proceed with it. If it doesn't, then it lets you decide whether you'd like to move this to an external source. Next. This is once again one-time setup, or it may be varying based on the yes.
We have some research, we have some application on the contact to refer to the customer or you get agreement with the agreement capability for the some spare part delivery. Then how to mention regarding that.
See, again, I think what we showed yesterday also this, so you have capability, you have set up the capability, which is correct, but capability in-house, MRO. But when you have a contract with a customer, you have a contracting module. So what we do is, see, in the part master, you will specify whether you can do it in-house or can you send it externally, or can you do in-house and externally, right? But what you can say in the contract is, doesn't matter you have capability for this particular part number, always send outside, even though you have internal capability. So it is pretty open on the contract in a new screen. So that's where you'll see in the contract you'll define external. Even though you might have capability at the contract level. So this is the contracting screen, which we will also talk about So here what we do is, in your contract, you can see this field here. So you will say that executed will be external repair, even though you may have the capability in-house. So now what customer order will do, when you remove a part, it will automatically understand the contract says external, so it will automatically create a subcontract or subcon repair order to send it externally as well. You can still override it later if you want. So yes, even the contract says you can still do in-house and then charge the customer on time and material. So all that can still be done, but the default routing of a part will be defined on the individual contract level.
Then, in your solution for this, defining one of the contract, list of the contract,
Yes.
who is the function to define in this system?
The contract is a collaboration between the commercial team and the maintenance team as well. So what happens is what is the work scoping? Because the work scope when we go, it is the actual work scope task which comes from my engineering master. So the engineering team will provide the inputs for work scoping and parts, whereas the commercial team will then provide the inputs for billing, invoicing, and caps and other commercial terms and invoicing terms as well. So it's like a two-way process that is usually built, which I have seen from my experience between the MRO and between the commercial team and the engineering team. But what the smarter way of doing it is you can create some templates, so you can create some template contracts during the implementation. So what happens is it gets automatically defaulted. So if you have a CFM overhaul work scope, then you don't need to go to engineering, right? Because you have a template work scope task, all they do is just provide that template, and then automatically all the work scope against that work overhaul will be automatically defined.
So different contract can be some explanation, right?
Yeah. So you have a copy feature where you can copy all the details from one contract, change few things, and just create a new contract. So you don't have to manually spend a lot of time and effort in creating these contracts. And capability, I think one more thing that we wanted to in the capability, right? So you can use this as a process where where you can create an initial request for capability. So you can see here against a part, I have defined what is the repair codes for which I'm getting the capability for. But at the same time, I can also define whether the child parts will also inherit the capability or is it only for the current part. So that you can say current and child. And then you can do two-step process. So somebody can raise a request for capability. It can then go to, let's say, for example, the maintenance team or the production supervisor to confirm that yes, this capability is correct. And then it can go to the quality department for final approval as well. So Ramco enables that audit process to create, confirm, and then get it approved by, let's say, quality or from another internal department to say, yes, this quality is approved by MOE as well. So that way you can do the full process of creating a capability all the way till getting it approved as well.
But capability that's not really by quality. When quality approves is capability, is there any information about this capability based on
That is the next level. So we have two processes, right? One is capability from a repair perspective, and the next thing is a certification capability. So maybe you can open that up. So there what we do is for this capability, who are the release certificates for which you are approving it? IASA, FAA, CASA. So which is the release certificates for which you are approving it is also updated as a second process. And then we have a centralized screen called as capability hub. Okay. So there, so here is what will happen is, let's say for example, for the full MRO, you will see that at a part in work center, you define the repair capability, but as you scroll, you'll also see what is the certification, IASA, FAA, PCA, you can create your own certificate types, and you can have multiple certifications against a given part number as well. So both the processes are enabled, and that is what you see here. And if, let's say, for example, this is green and this is green, only then system will allow you to also approve a customer request. So there the capability check happens right from customer request process, and it checks all the way till you generate your form one as well. So there is at any point, system will always keep validating it to ensure that you have the current capability as well. And then, but for odd reasons, if you don't have a capability, you still have an override button, which is not given to everyone. The customer override. So you only, let's say, for example, it will go to quality department or it will go to some specific role who will then review, okay, this is the request, I can do it. Maybe I have repair capability, but not for EASA. Do I need to override for one-off instance and allow you to create a repair order? Ego capability exception box will be only enabled to specific person, and this will have audit. Who did this? Why did they do it? All the reasons will be captured, and then you will save the work scope in your customer. I hope that answers the question, right? So currently, is the capability managed like in your systems, or is it done externally?
On the right now, on the it the water level. We manage until the, let's say, the level of the capability, the certificate of capability.
Okay. That will have the options where it can descope, right? So you might not review it, and then it has the possibilities of some leakages.
Let's say that not need to as they are not but we didn't have but we still continue to work on this part of the idea.
This will prevent you. So you can see a customer order, so here it will say you green take, or here it is telling me I don't have repair capability. So if there is no certification capability, then this image will turn into like a document to say you don't have certification capability. This image, if you bring the mouse over here, it will show me that this particular part is not capable. So then you will see that it will say part exception, that this part itself you don't have capability to do the repair.
So it's not so available for who be able to release the specified certification. For example, we have some certified staff who have EASA or FAA difference, or it's related to percent.
Yes, so even at person level, you can capture whether they have EASA, FAA, or which certifying authority. So because when they get the license, we also have to capture the certifying authority for which they are, like this license number is applicable. So in our employee skill definition, we capture the applicability not just at a certifying level, but even at a part level. So you can say that, let's say CFM engine. So this particular engineer can only certify for CFM engines and not for any other engines as well. So that detailed level of definitions can still be done at the employee level using our skill definition. So in the license, you'll select here what is my license number and who issued it as well. So issuing authority here will say that this license is applicable only for the following regulatories or the following.
Is it for categories license, like type license? How about the part for like each part number?
You can see here. So for a given license number, I can specify whether what is the part number, and then for the part, I will be able to specify who is my even at a engine part number or at a aircraft model level as well.
And it will carry on to the certificate process. And we connect to the certificate. If we have a capability or ability, we call this ability list. We have internal ability list here. Who if someone who have list of part number, they can perform, it will be accessible. But it's outside our system.
Yeah, no, so here that list can also be managed here. So I'll just quickly show you that. So you see in this person, I will have my license number. So you can see here. So what I'm saying is for my
Yes, it is. Answer this.
Yeah, so here I'm saying what is the base part and then I'm providing the part number here, right? Similarly, if I take, because I have multiple license numbers that I have captured here, at individual license number here, I'll be able to specify again what is the base part number where this particular license is applicable. And again, if it is, let's say, for example, at an aircraft model level, then those aircraft models will also be captured. So like that, at an employee level, I can specify the part numbers. In case of component or engine maintenance, in case of aircraft maintenance, then I specify the aircraft model where I am approved to generate the certificate of release of them. So you don't have to manage it outside. This here system will mandate. So when you're generating a certification, it will tell me that I don't have capability to issue the certification if I really don't have this level of definition set up as well. So that this is how it is compliant with all the quality processes. That's why, like making sure that the right person is doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. It's a explain for the employee. It's
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The process. So when you have the customer order, the customer service order registered, validating with capability checks, and we will proceed at this point in time. The moment the customer order is authorized, right? So the system automatically generates two transactions for you. One is the execution document itself, which is your work order, where you will probably be planning your procedures, your recipe tasks, and you move forward with shop execution. And one document in parallel with that, which is called as a visit document for us, which is more of a technical document where you manage your engine serials configuration, your life limited parts list, and as well as your compliance information. That's what we will look at next. The visit document, or the visit reference as we call it, essentially has three parts to it, like I just mentioned. So you have your configuration, you have life limited parts, and your engineering components. So what happens is, the moment you have your visit reference set up, so what you see here at the top is your serial number that you're expected to receive against this job. And what you also see is something called the thrust rating value, right? So every engine can operate in multiple thrust ratings. That's a given. And in system in Ramco, we have this thrust rating that is recognized against the part number. For a given part, you can specify the thrust rating in which it could operate, and by virtue of that, when the order is registered, we know what is the thrust rating with which this about to be received. And we will also have a request from the customer to maybe up that thrust rating while, in this particular discipline, make some modifications, increase the thrust rating from probably 24K to 27K. And by that, what you can also do here is to specify what is the target thrust rating with which you want to send the engine back to your customer. So the first thing that you recognize that you put up inside your visit is what's the thrust rating with which you're receiving, and how do you expect to send that back to your customer. So the thrust rating illustration is the first thing that we see here. And once that is done, now get to the most important information. So
The incoming thrust rating is before the inspection.
it's before inspection. Yes.
We have the information from the customer.
We have the information from the customer. This is what you see here is the step even before you have seen the engine, the physical engine, still not received it, probably just working with the information that we have from the customer. Right? So you just know your engine serial, its thrust rating, and its technical information where you talk about the configuration, the usage values of the engine, as well as all the some assemblies, life limited parts, and the appliances. Right? That's what.
So is this performed prior to the installation, right?
Yes.
So after this should be a work scope.
No, there is a work scope. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So if you remember some time back, we saw an engine template configuration set, right? So we were looking at the police engine, what are the expected sub-assemblies, the serialized positions as well as the non-serialized or the quantity control positions. And for each of those quantity control positions, what is the expected quantity, right? So the left pane that you see here is simply a tree a review of that particular configuration. We will have individual modules, and under each module, we will see the next level of configuration going down to the nth level which we have. The right side is your working side, where we will be have the configuration for the engine serial number has to be updated. Right. So,
Is the now is the actual based on the EDS or the last visit report?
of the last recent report,
The last of this is sufficient class.
yes,
So the part number is already defined by
in that, in the system.
yeah. But it's not just a master.
No. So this is your actual engine part and serial number that you may have received in the previous visit. You have done a previous shop visit before, and it's the same number the case. Register once again to the next one. Okay. So,
If we during maintenance engine, we can order some order. But we have some to special process, like engine T process. And generate the report from the engine process. How usually they have to for this one.
the engine process.
During maintenance, we have some effects. We need to order. And then the solution activation must be do some in the process. And the process must be generated spot. So the solution is the for this report in detail report can be solved.
Yeah, when you get to the execution part, so you will see there will be some issues or defects that which you guys will have in the process. In execution, which will be something outside. So the step where you not receive the issue, so you the execution. If you've been on that now, you come back. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So for this specific engine visit, for the engine serial number, as you said, if you had this engine serial number in any of your previous shop visit, and at least let's say if you've done at least one minimum shop visit in the past, then you already know the engine serial. And since we have the template configuration from the previous engine visit, we will also know the last known engine serials configuration, right? So from the last visit that it's come and gone, we know what we know basically the on log of the last shop visit, right? So we know what were the sub-assemblies that were installed during the last shop visit, and that constitutes our last known engine serial configuration, right? So that configuration is called as the engine's component configuration, and that data will already be available. And what you will see here will be that last known component configuration or engine serial number configuration. So from here, we will have to probably upgrade it to the latest version based on the information that you have from the customer right now, wherein you may have documents which will talk about individual sub-assemblies, the part and serial number and the quantity with which you're going to expect the engine. There could be delta deviations, right? From the last shop visit, the configuration that you send the engine out with. From there, you may have certain variations right now where parts could have been replaced, certain modifications could have been done, some service bulletins could have been applied, which means some new positions, new sub-assemblies could have been merged. So that variation is what we will be updating over here in some cases.
Same solution for the engine, that for bulb installation and bulb remover.
Yes, that once again we will cover in execution. So here as well you can do it. So when there's a particular position, okay, maybe in a format, right? So this configuration, as you see, you can work on it in bulk, so you don't have to probably do this replacement of what is the old part, remove it and install what's expected now. What you can do is you can export this out onto an Excel and work completely out of Excel, right? So the key information that you will probably update into the configuration is basically your installed part and serial. So all of these are your positions. You just need one module at a time. And it's easier. This complete visit may be worked by multiple people at a time, right? So you may have multiple.
For the last shop visit reports, that's not all the part numbers are mentioned. So during next review for the position part, dari part number. So we don't know already the part. So we stated as a young part.
The sub-assemblies you mean? Sub-assemblies, you don't know what the part numbers are, you share just
So we decided to take the part as this.
okay.
After the disassembly process, we will get into part numbers.
Physical verification, then you get to know the parts.
So that's only for the location, for input the actual part.
I will show you the process. So what you can do here is, if you, for those positions where you don't know the exact part and serial, you can specify what is installed in that particular position. So if you do know the installed part and serial number exactly, you specify that. In case where you say you don't know what is really installed in that position and you want to wait until the step of physical validation, what we do have for the position level, it specifies something called as mark that position stating that you don't, the values are unknown. Okay. So you have something called as discrepancy information where you can specify saying that the exact part and serial information is unknown, and you can put a remark saying that this is to be validated at the time of physical inspection, right? The preliminary inspection or physical configuration validation. So you mark this position as unknown, so which means the system at this point in time does not expect any part and serial or quantity to be installed manually, so it waits until the process of inspection. But we still know what is the position reference part that you are expecting at that position. So if you know the information, you provide part serial, otherwise you mark it as unknown. So what another scenario could also be is that there could be a part and serial, I mean, something could have been installed over there, but at this point in time, probably some of your accessory parts, they are either damaged, broken off, missing at this point in time. So you're not expecting anything to be installed in that position. These can also be marked as missing. So once again, an indication for the shop floor to know that there is a position open, they may probably have to replace it, not expect to remove anything from that position. So you can also mark this. So those are certain variations in your configuration that you can provide. And in fact, there could also be certain sub-assemblies that have already been disassembled at a very high level, some sub-components at a high level already be disassembled by the customer themselves, and then you will probably receive that as in a separate crate. Like while it comes with the engine, it's not still installed, but you may receive that separately. That can also be recognized at this point in time and stating that it will be found disassembled. So once again, it's an indication to your shop floor that yes, there is a part and serial number, but not physically installed, but you will receive it separately as a different parameter. So these are the variations of your configuration that you can specify. So either you know your part and serial or you define the dependencies. And along with it, what you should also provide are the parameter information, right? So you can say that for each of these sub-assemblies, either at your engine level or your sub-assemblies, you can specify the usage values, flight hours and flight cycles. Everything's, this is overall since the last repair, all of these values are even since the attachment. Right? So this, all of this can be updated in bulk. You don't have to do it one component or one position at a time because it's bulk. So every grid or multi-line that you see here is exported. So you can export that onto an Excel, upload everything onto an Excel, and import it back again. And with the engine configuration, if you have multiple, engineers who are also working on individual modules of these engines, it also gives you that flexibility of one person working on each module at the same time. That's what this tree is for. So if you remember, we did look at this configuration tree where you have different modules listed. So each person can log on, pick the module that they are responsible for, work on their expected configuration, have this approach. Right? So it's also something that you can work on.
Basically, the time series, new time series protocol, itu bisa pasti.
So what the system will also do is, it's not just manual entry, right? So the moment you start updating your part and serial numbers, what it will also do is start giving, validating whether what you've installed is actually right from the configuration. So because we do have an expected part configuration, you're definitely knowing what is the expected part, and you also have an authorized list of alternates that can be attached to each of these positions. So that part that helps in the quick validation. The system helps you validate and check whether what is installed or given by the customer is actually an allowed part serial or a part into that position. Right? So this is, so if you see there's a validate here, so the moment you upload this data and you hit this button called validate, the system will do the check of alternate parts applicability, the quantity that you provide for the non-serialized units, whether it falls between the range of the minimum and maximum that's defined, and it gives you a validation whether that position is right or not. If it is not, then it goes for a round of validation. Maybe the customer's documentation could be wrong, or if you have just out certain interchange for the definitions here. That validation can happen until you have the configuration that you expect to move forward. Right? So that's your configuration. So that's just your first step, right? So once you've done with the configuration, now what you may also have is this configuration could have a list of life limited parts inside it. Okay? For life limited parts, here. So we do have life limited parts as a, I mean, you can get this as a separate list from the customer as well, which means for each of these life limited parts, you will have the respective usage information. And depending on the thrust rating in which your engine has been operating so far in its history, right? This usage value will also be by what I mean is it could have a cumulative usage value, but that cumulative usage value can be broken down to multiple thrust ratings in which it had been operating so far. Right. So for that, and based on that, you may want to calculate what is its remaining life and evaluate whether it has to undergo replacement or not in the current system as well.
And automatically calculate the remaining cycle to remaining life based on the thrust rating.
Yes. So for every life limited part, so life limited part based on the various thrust ratings in which it can operate, it can have varying life limits, like ultimate life. So there is the, once again, a master setup where you can specify what are the various thrust ratings in which these parts can operate. And for each of these thrust ratings, what is the ultimate life? Once that is defined, within a particular engine visit, for a given particular engine visit, for each of these LLP parts, you get to specify the breakup of its usage or breakup of its cycles across various thrust ratings. You can see for a given life limited part, you get to specify in each of the applicable thrust ratings what is its usage so far, right? And based on this, system also automatically retrieves and identifies that okay, for these thrust ratings that the part will operate on, this is the target available. The ultimate life limit, and yeah, so target life, but this is your ultimate life limit. And based on this, it will automatically calculate your remaining life. So it's a standard formula that we activate. Yes.
Can we insert the new column? Because sometimes the LLP will be another engine like 7B, 5B. So it will have different implementations.
We can add this. These columns are derived based on configurable thrust ratings that you provide. These are dynamic columns, so it can be added. So we in fact get automatically added based on the engine applicability and the thrust rating applicability that you find.
And we can print out the LLP.
Yeah, we can extend this. So based on the usage and your life limit that it has recognized, system will automatically calculate your remaining life. So in general, it will calculate the life, remaining life for all of your LLPs across all the thrust ratings in which it could operate. Kind of gives you a quick, idea on what is the life limit in which this can possibly operate for the remaining life or usage that it has. Right? And with that, what happens is coming back onto the particular visit, because we've already defined what is your target thrust rating. For the target thrust rating, we will be able to see what's the remaining life. And calculate what is the remaining life. We calculate the remaining life. What you can also do is apply something called as a target build value or your expected value for this particular visit. Or what is the minimum life with which you would like to have all your life limited parts installed after the engine. And with that value, comparing that with the remaining life limit, the system will provide a shortage, whether there is a shortage in the life limit or there is an excess value. So the will provide you whether there is an excess or a shortage, and based on that, you get to disposition that particular life limit. So if you do find a shortage in the life limit for the particular part, you get to decide what would you like to do that. The shortage is like really less, and if you think the part can no longer be used, then you probably decide to scrap it and replace that particular position. Or if there's sufficient value but not enough for this particular engine, you probably just do a replace, right? So this position that you see here is actually a configurable code in Rambo, and this code determines what happens to that remote. So whether you want to scrap it or whether you want to just remove, put it in your local inventory and probably just do a replacement or not. Or in case if your life limited part has certain amount of, a given amount of life remaining to it, if you just would like to remove it, do some basic inspection, certain repairs and install it up, that asset can be determined or assigned based on this disposition. Okay? So this disposition determines what happens to the remote unit and what goes back into the engine. So if you do decide to maybe scrap or replace it, you can also specify what is the new part that you would like to expect. This may also come from your customer where they say the life limited parts will have to be replaced by only new units, or it's okay to go with service units or go for units, right? So that condition or a preference can also be decided at this stage. So that's on life limited parts. And one final section in this pre-induction stage is identifying your engineering compliance. So this talks about your service bulletins that are applicable for your engine as well as all of its sub-assemblies. And just quickly, we can look at one service bulletin first. Engine service bulletins can be of predominantly can be of three different types. Actually, we could talk about your basic inspection service bulletins where you may have. Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah. One week. Yang kemarin kan juga kita ekspos dari tadi maju atau kita bisa jadi sudah banyak
So service bulletins or engineering documents, the application. So I'm saying there will be three types. Right? So we may have like an inspection service bulletin that gets released, which just has a simple inspection procedure associated to it. Or we may have a repair or a rework service bulletin where the part could undergo certain minor repairs, which in turn may eventually cause the part number to undergo part number change or what number change, right? And finally, we may have a replacement service bulletin, which talks about some of the sub-assemblies in the engine which will have to undergo a replace. There could be all these three types, right? So whatever may be the type in Rambo, which is all of that is registered as an engineering document. Right? So within an engineering document, just talking at a very high level about the most important areas inside engineering document. One, the preliminary inspection, the primary information about what is the purpose of this engineering document. When was it released? When is it valid from or effective from? And then talking about the effectivity of the engineering document or the service, which is essentially the list of your engine parts or its sub-assemblies on which the SP will have to be performed. So you could specify this at an engine part number level or a group of part numbers. So you do have a definition of part group in the inventory setup where you can group similar all your engine parts of a similar model together. So you can define it at a part number level. So this part can either be on, the service bulletin can directly be on the engine itself, or it could be on one of its sub-assemblies. So either case, you get to define what are these list of parts, that fall into the effectivity. The tasks essentially talks about your procedure, right? So we will look at the task definition, but what you will get by years be a single task or a set of procedures or a list of tasks that are required to be performed, and on your effective parts list. The most important thing that I wanted to show for an engine server bulletin is something called as a configuration change. Yes.
Before we test the we must know that utility that of engine. If we integrate with operation, like operation or other operation, then we also the information that we got in the station of engine from like crafting the installation. Like power, for example, extent of
So, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously there are two ways to look into it, right? So if your customer, your customer is a base customer, let's say, then there is a seamless possibility of having an interface, right? Just to give an example, so we are working on some sort of a similar setup with a Korean air, right? Okay, so Korean Air also performs their maintenance for Korean Air aircrafts, and they also do for a third party. So for most of their own aircrafts, right, because technically it has all the flight times and it also has some service bulletins. There is an interface which will push the data automatically when you inject an engine most of the times, and then the data which is available, the LLP parts and etc. will be automatically fed.
this will be automatically after we
In the screen what we have seen earlier, right?
Yeah.
So what is the install components? Okay, so and what is the current times and etc. That will get updated. Now, a second scenario, right, where it's not your base customer. Okay, let's say for example, it's a third party customers, etc. Then obviously it doesn't make sense to have an interface. Once you get the data in some format, right, pixels or PDF, then that's where you can enter it. So system has a capability to take the data from either source. It's just like a question of having that interface. So as your base is increasing, right, so it makes sense to have that sort of interface with your CPU. Instead, you have a capability to enter it directly for your third party. It's one of third party.
So for the third party simulation for the data per hour, for example, is pretty much because manually
Yeah, so basically, you're right. When I say manually, we mean that there is an export import. Let's assuming that you get that LLP list from the third party customer in Excel. You just move it to an Excel, and then there is an So basically, you can export. Obviously, you're not going to do one by one. You export a bulk. Let's say there are some 300 LLP parts, right? Just move it into an Excel sheet, and then just import directly, and then pick the bulk.
So, within engineering documents, other key achievement that we register is the configuration change information. So, every modification, especially when we speak about rework repair or replacement service bulletin, we have certain positions or sub-assemblies within the regulation that may undergo a change. So, basically, where the physical part undergoes a change that's changed, or you may have a replacement that happens, right? So, this impact can be registered within the engineering document as a configuration change information. And these are all the release changes that can be done. So you can either say that there is a part change, or if it's a replacement, you know that the physical part is removed and replaced. But at the same time, the template configuration should also have the particular position updated with the revised expected part, right? So you could specify that as position part, or in certain cases, you should also have a new position that you are maybe adding into your configuration. You may have any existing sub-assemblies that are probably no longer required after this modification, so you may want to inactivate that position from the configuration. And we're talking about, if we are looking at the non-serialized position, you may have a quantity variation. Right, so the number of blades in each stage of your turbine or your fan could be varied based on certain modifications that you request. So these are the different changes that you can set up, and what you do to set that up is basic essentially to say what is the existing current standard position part that is in each of these positions. You state what is the new part that you like, and in similar way, it's a quantity variation to specify what is existing and what is the updated quantity information that is required after the compliance of this particular service. So this is just a setup inside of the service bulletin as an engineering document in the application. But the compliance comes within the engine visit, right, for a particular order. One more area before we go back into the list is also specifying the relationship between engineering documents, which also where you can specify. There could be service bulletins that are related to each other. So you may want to specify that, okay, a couple of these service bulletins are probably, they have to be performed together. There could be service bulletins that are released and stated that they will have to be performed together. If one is complied, the other one is also expected to be complied on, right? And you could also have, supersede relationship, which means you may say that the latest version of the service bulletin, once it is complied, it also marks the compliance of the previous version or the compliance of certain other services. So that can also be defined in the engineering document definition. So once you have the engineering document set up, now this setup, of course, done by the engineering team, and we did also look at it yesterday that it would not be a manual setup. There is a way of automating the setup through one of our AI tool or use case, where we automatically read the service bulletin document that you may receive from OEM, or will be downloaded from the portal, or even if it's authored internally, right? So that can be read through an AI tool, and that will automatically set up this document for you and leave it in a fresh version or an open version where you can review it and then authorize it for execution. That's something that we also saw yesterday. So once the engineering document is authorized, going back into our engine visit. So getting into the visit back again, right? So once you have all your engineering documents ready and authorized, for every engine visit, the system automatically identifies the applicable engineering documents, both for your engine as well as all your services. So you could have, even 100 engineering documents that it is recognizing, and all of that are automatically evaluated because the engineering document has the list of effective parts. This is evaluated and you have the list here. So all you get to do here, once again, for working in bulk, export this out onto an Excel. You can mark which are those engineering documents that are so far complied on the engine and its sub-assemblies, because there could be, if the compliance had already happened inside GMF during the last shop visit, that data is already there. But there could be certain service bulletins that have been complied externally, right? During the period between the last shop visit and the current visit, there could be some additional compliance that have happened. And with that data coming in from the customer, it can happen updated here in bulk. So just mark those service bulletins that are complied. And in addition to that, if you also need any service bulletins to be planned in the bulk, right? That can also be done. So you just specify any missed out service bulletins that you think are mandatorily required, or the service bulletins that the customer has said, either, they needed to be complied in the visit, or if you know that there are new service bulletins revised, released and mandatory, you can mark them as to be planned at this stage itself. And what the system will also tell you is based on the relations that you've given, any two service bulletins that have to be complied together, any two service bulletins that have a supersede relationship, that is also highlighted here. So you know that you have planned the entire list of service bulletins that are applicable for your engine and their services. So you have one set of compliance, and you also have one set of planned service bulletins coming out of this. What happens is the moment you save this compliance information, the system automatically starts updating all your configuration changes onto this engine configuration. Right? So we just saw a definition inside engineering document where you specify maybe there's a replacement and a particular position changes from maybe let's say a P1 to P2, right? And that change is automatically affected onto this configuration which you just worked on, right? So, and that once that changes come up, some of your inconsistencies in the configuration, maybe the last known configuration expects a P1 in the position, but the customer has said there's a P2 that is installed over there, which could have been highlighted as an inconsistency or an exception. But the moment you update your engineering compliance, once the configuration is updated, that error is automatically. Right? So that's that's an advantage of having this compliance updating your configuration on it.
So just to confirm that, if you have a copy, service bulletin also need the documents. The compliance of the SP baseline and also the AD. Then it automatically linked to the list of the sub-SC. Then the user can update compliance of its AD or SP in the structure. process some SE display. Yes. And also, what about the AI tool? What it means now, when we have the PDF file of the AG or the SP, and we can automatically detect what is the content of the AG and SP, and we put it in the memory field of the engineering compliance file.
That's right, that's right. So I was showing this yesterday. Of course, this is just the backend, not the actual application, but we were just trying to show the actual execution of what happens. So the moment you receive probably the document, your SP document through either through email or we have interface with the OEM portal and you get that information. So that document is automatically read by the system, takes that as an input. It breaks the individual section of that document and fragments that into data elements that are necessary for setting up the engineering document in the application. So you have the effectivity information. We were, I think, looking at an aircraft document yesterday. But it essentially brings out what is your effectivity, your date range, what is the purpose of this particular engineering document, the background document. You also notice there are, your effectivity. We were looking at aircraft yesterday, but it works the same way for the engine, where it talks about what is your part number. In your division, instead of MSN, you may have your division part number. Your part number again as well. And also, it could be more than one part. So it extracts that list and it moves on to the next section of activity or task. It says exactly the task number, the description, and all that. Each section is fragmented, broken down into this format, and this is uploaded into the direct document field, which is stored from
And this is the experiment program, and the results is the JSON file uploaded to the.
Yes, yes. So back to service bulletin compliance. This compliance is now so you have your configuration updated. So you have your compliance information up to date or to the latest version. You also have your life limited parts usage updated. You know the remaining life that the system has calculated now, and from this completes the technical information of the engine, right? So with that, this data can be now moved for actual work scoping or planning of your work order system to basically do the next stage. So what happens is, at the first stage of planning, we've already done one level of planning here, where we talk about the engineering document planning, right? So certain service bulletins that you already know are required to be planned, they're already planned with this. Now that, just like how we said, the compliance has an impact on the configuration. The compliance that you registered had an impact on the current configuration of the engine. What you plan will have an impact on the a different the target configuration of the engine, right? So what is planned, once that is complied actually in execution, you are going to end up with a slightly varied version of your engine configuration, not the version that you started with, but you're going to have another version of your configuration, right? So in this case, with what we know as the current engine configuration, also updated with the previous compliances, what you can do is take a, kind of approve this version and do a baseline or a quick snapshot stating that this is the incoming or the expected version of my engine, that probably you've still not seen, but based on the documents that you've received from the customer, you mark this as your incoming or an expected incoming engine. So it's kind of basically to, come back at a later point in time and see what are the deviations. Review during each stage of your visit to come back and review what was your original configuration, what were your original list of LNPs, and where you will eventually land at, right? So once you have this, we also have, and because we've planned service bulletins, right? I also probably want to show you what that target configuration is. There's one over there, and it's happening. So based on the service bulletins that you planned, the system once again applies the configuration changes for those service bulletins that are planned onto the current configuration. And it will set up another view called as the target configuration view for the engineer to review at any point in time, with which they can of course start tracking the entire progress from what happened. So this view at the top, this is where I said anytime somebody can come back, an engineer can come back and see what was my pre-incoming or an expected version, what is the target, and of course when we now go to the subsequent step, we also see that there are additional options. So this is your target configuration. So the target configuration position, what is the part number expected? So this could be a different part number because your plans are certainly service bulletins right now. And as and when installations happen, we will also start looking at the progress of it. And similarly, the expected life limited parts list as well, right, based on what we've planned. So this is the pre-incoming stage. And any questions that you have, anything you think I missed in this process at this point in time?
Sometimes maybe overhaul the engine here, but the power module and the module will be supplied to another shop. So there will be another part will be changed over there, and when it comes to here, so we need to change the configuration by manual. How about if we use the system? How we change the part? This has been replaced.
So you mean to say you've sent one of the modules
Yeah.
to another shop, but maybe they've given another part, probably like an exchange instead of the part that you've given, they send back another part of the same module to you.
Yes,
And
and such with different parts, like we change the LLP on another vendor and come back here, so we need to change the configuration report manually.
So this one is going outside
Yeah,
the contract.
Exactly.
We come to that part. We don't have to do it manually because the configuration is already recognized. We'll probably come back to that during the kitting process. So when you receive a different part from the external vendor, that part's configuration is automatically swapped out with the part that you remove from the original configuration. We'll see that. Then okay. So with the pre-induction records that are updated right now we can move to this next step of the initial work scoping process, where let's assume that, let's say you just received the engine probably. Like I said, once you have from the customer service order, you have two sets of documents, two individual documents that were set up by the system. One was the visit checklist, where we have been working on with all of these technical information, and the other half is actually the execution document, or your work order document itself. The work order document carries the actual set of tasks and procedures that you need to perform. When it comes to the work order, what we do know is the set of engineering documents that are applicable on the engine and its assemblies, similar to the engineering document list that we saw inside the visit relevance. It's the same set once again here. Anything that you have already planned in the visit or anything that the engineering is already planned for as part of the visit process, that is automatically pulled into your work order here for subsequent planning. And in addition to that, what planning can also happen here is that all this engine and its assembly system automatically identifies all the other applicable tasks. So there's a separate task master repository where you can define the applicable tasks for your engine. And that builds a list of your tasks. It could be starting from the overhaul, what are the individual procedures. There could be a WBA structure, right? And this could be extracted from your engine managers. Right? So these tasks essentially come from, so we have a separate module for the application. So all of your engine manuals that you may receive from the OEMs, those documents, either in the form of XML or an HTML format, they're received, and these documents can be uploaded into the e-publications free for us. So these documents, which is from quickly open one, show you. This could be your so it holds information about individual steps in the procedure, what are their requirements, what is that special procedure, the requirements of your tools and equipment, your skills and your spare parts, what and the detailed, the detailed steps of your procedure. So this data from the manual can be automatically extracted into a task card information, and this is transferred onto your work order for execution. Right. So this PDF data is broken down, extracted and broken down into individual tasks that I will. So each of those tasks from the document that I just showed you will be extracted as individual task steps and write the system automatically, and you get to review them here. So it will associate your task definition onto each division of your document, and these tasks are also transferred onto Gramco's task repository as individual task numbers along with their procedure and the requirements to it. So it could have your manpower requirements, you have tools and your spare part requirements, right? So this extracted version is also translated into our task repository. And that task repository is what you actually see for planning inside the work order to pull them into the work order for execution, right? So, but that does not leave out the manual as such, the actual procedure, because the entire procedure cannot be looked at as in the application. This PDF version will also be visible during execution. We will look at that during the execution. Right.
Currently, task cards are taking it in PDF format. So if there is any revision comes from the way then you take it as approximately how many task cards you have for the thousands of and you just follow the OEM task card, like how do you customize it? If you add
Start that, you customize it.
so you can do the customization as well. Customization of the task cards. So basically, you
First, we need to insert the source number and the tools required. Tools on the
Sometimes we say
yeah. So now here the technology aspect is like you can customize the task card but you have it. So we can add some instructions or you can add warnings or you can have editable data blocks. Like the tasks, so the advantage is when you get a revision, so whatever the customization you did, that will still get protected. You don't need to do the again. So only the revision portion from the way you will get affected, and whatever you did, that customization will remain as. So you don't need to do multiple things, right? Again, this is provided if you have the task cards available in the formats. PDF also you can do. So PDF also you can upload it. Then you can do some customization on the fly. You can add some blocks in the PDF. Yeah. That this is like what we said. Can you open that? This is a digital task card, right? So let's assume that okay, for a particular task system, we are opening the task cards, right? So we'll open completely digital task cards, and then there you can do a customization.
sessions. And we have to extend each of the data is
Correct.
it generates automatically because
That's yeah. So you upload a ESM, and then okay, so then you that ESM document is going to be the reference. Okay, so that's going to be the reference. With that as a reference, then you create the task cards. It's multiple task cards, number 2. And that task card will point to the reference of the main document. And the task card itself, we can make some customization, right? Okay, and then you use it as a digital task card. So, and this task card will be associated to a task number. Okay, so the task number. Okay, so when the execution team, the production team uses the task, then automatically this task card, the digital task card, should be rendered in the mobile app. They can just do it electronically. So from all the way from the ESM. So we have a capability for, at this point of the time for CA from lead, PW 1000, etc. So that's what I think capability. APU, as we are working with two models, manual and manual. It's like slowly we are just moving, evolving. I think we should be able to get scope. Okay, these are some five models we support, and then there's a plan to onboard other engines in the APUs.
Because for now, we make it's just a single video file.
Yeah. So this is how we can just, alter and then you can customize it.
What about the when the this production team needs to be stand for now? We have a stand for the shop types.
So you have two options. We will see it as we go to the next session. We'll see. From a system standpoint, you have electronic sign-on. Okay, so again, as you know, that can be used as long as you have some regulatory. So that is something we don't have it yet. So now the way to do it here is we complete all the job electronically, right? Okay, so you complete or put all the information. So everything you do it on the mobile, right? Okay, so compliance and all that stuff. Because regulatory needs were the 30 fingerprints, after completing all the job, take a printout, get their 30 fingerprint, scan it, and then sort of reattach it. Attach it to the system. That is when you complete as part of your end game, right? When you generate a package, right? Okay, complete package, right? Okay, it knows it. Okay, so it will automatically print all the PDF with the leaf returning fingerprints.
So it will be scanned to the also.
Yeah.
So is it before?
Yes. So all those things you upload it as part of this, right? So anything which is done, right? Okay, even the subcontract provides you certain shop visits report or internal shop visits reports or anything, everything you attach it as part of the process. And then when you print a final package, right? Okay, for your customers, right? Okay, then the system will show you what the package looks like. It will show this task performed and this are the sign off logs. And then it will also print the document, PDF document which is attached, which is, which contains your PDF pages.
Very big file.
Yeah, it's a big head.
The database, it could be like you have this size of field.
Yeah.
Maybe it's easy.
Yeah. And even you can take a photograph. Maybe you can just like if you take some cracked photograph and attach as part of the discrepancy, so that also will get. But yeah, we'll just show it on the execution. But before that, I think we have planning work scoping. So,
The fact that we have this more manual to be
we'll take a 5 minutes break.
Mau break dulu? Oke. Ya, I think we ya 10 minutes lagi. Oke, break dulu teman-teman. 10 menit.
Maybe you can explain about the.
Yeah, we are getting there. So after break, okay, so there is a one step called work scoping. So once the work scoping is done, then we'll come to a project management, that is scheduling of the projects. Then we'll, yeah, so after break, we'll touch.
Now
That's it.
and
Oh, is it?
Or not, that's maybe.
What's restarting? Yeah, we can start. Yeah. Correct.
Like the pre-induction process here done, summarize with the pre-induction process. Work order, the execution document has been set up. Now we're at the point where we like the work scoping for the engine. Right. So one first step of work scoping or one part of work scoping was to plan the service bulletins, which had happened in the visit itself. So that has been automatically transferred onto the work order. But beyond that, the actual work scope, which may typically start from your preliminary inspection of your engine, right? Your task, your inspection, followed by your actual work scope that you require to perform on the engine, your overhaul tasks or the disassembly tasks that will contain the repair tasks that are required. Right? So within the work order, so plan by order, this is the screen where essentially the work scoping process happens. And here, the aid that we have here is something on the left, which we call as a due list, which typically starts projecting all the applicable tasks for your engine as well as your sub-assemblies. So a while back, we did see from the maintenance manuals, what are those task cards that have been extracted, and they have been associated in the application or in the task repository as a specific task number. And each of these tasks number carried to what engine they are effective for. So what is their engine effectivity? What are the sub-assembly parts to which they're applicable on? And by virtue of that, the system has been able to automatically bring this list for you, stating that these are your applicable tasks. You get to choose what you really want what you want to add into a work order. So if you can see here, starting from the engine. So this the first node that you see on the screen is your engine. And for this engine, first of all, it brings you all your applicable engineering documents. So, and it also brings you the applicable tasks, which could be your actual manual tasks that have been extracted from your manual and then also brought to the repository. And all you need to plan a particular task into your work order is by selecting the checkbox, maybe your engineering document or a task, and you transfer it using this item. So you have the applicable list, you choose them, multiple, need not be one by one, you review the entire list, you choose them, and you move them into your work order. So what you can also do is the planning need not be just at an engine level. You could also at this, simultaneously look what is applicable on all the services, because we know the configuration, we know the sub-assemblies that are sitting inside the configuration, the part numbers, their alternates, and what is the exact part serial number that is in fact sitting. Based on that, the system is also able to retrieve and tell you that okay, these are your sub-assemblies. So you can see these are all your modules, and for each module, it's once again showing you your list of applicable engineering documents and your other applicable tasks, and it keeps going inside the hierarchy. So you have your first level modules, and within each module, it further shows you what is the next level of components or the part configuration position, and for that you still have your engineering document and applicable tasks. So one way of work scoping is if you know your configuration, the complete configuration upfront, majority of the configuration is known, the work scoping can be done at this part itself. But we understand you would also do another round of work scoping once the inspection part is done, right? So at this point in time, if we just think that we are work scoping just the inspection related tasks on the engine alloy, that you can just leave it there. So you just identify the tasks that is required for creating an inspection. You move that onto your work order. So the moment I hit transfer, that transfers these tasks onto your right pane here. If you notice, these are the task details. So this is your task and your description, and this is obviously also connected to your manual task card. And what you do is you add it here, and then you say that I'm going to release it for next. Yes.
For the solution for the engine, for the manual task card, must be sent from the customer. So for the system for the vehicle, how about upload the document manual?
The engine manual is
Yeah.
so the engine manual that you get is uploaded into our e-publications module. Right? So this is our e-publications module, which I mean it's common and we look at this for other aircraft names as well. So here, what we do have is this is where your manuals are first of all uploaded, and each manual is moved on for extraction. This is the manual that you will receive.
So the customer said has the manual and then upload into this.
Yes, you can upload it into the applications portal, and this is where the manual will be broken down into its segments, identify each and every task card. And these task cards, once they're broken down, if there are any further customizations on the content that you receive, internally, if you'd like to make additional changes onto that, you can also customize this task card and have this associated into a particular task number in our task repository. So that task number is what you see on the work order screen for plan. So this task card is still held as a linked information. This is going to come to you during execution, but the task number is the reference for us with which we do the planning, initial planning stages.
How about during the maintenance, there are some updates regarding the activity and efficiency from the task can be automatically do on the update and manual. Or must be manual output.
Revision on your manuals, you say, you need that?
Yeah.
Revision.
And then effectivity. During the engine, we have some update from the manufacturer regarding the effectivity and then we must be applicable with the last update. Right?
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, so the work order right now would probably be carrying the older version of your task cards. The moment you receive the new revision from the manufacturer, so what happens is that can be the new version once it gets uploaded, that can also be seen.
So two things happen, right? One is, let's say, for example, you have revision 1, and then there is some work orders which is going on, right? So let's say some work orders in progress. And then during this time, you get a revision 2.
Yeah.
So now, first step is, okay, you induct, ingest the revision 2 and make necessary changes here. And system will, obviously, this will be done with engineering team, I'm assuming, right? Okay, they will see it, they will compare the revisions. They will take for the internal approval, and then they will clear it, saying that now it is going to be a revision. This is first step. Now what happens is, once that particular step is there, maybe you can see the impact assessment. So basically there is another screen which will study the impact of this particular change and then say that this particular revision is affecting your ongoing work orders, right? Okay, let's say 10 different work orders. And there somebody has a sort of a review saying that, yes, okay, you select all the work orders and then you put this particular new revision. Now what will happen is that impact of the new revision on the existing work orders would be shown here.
Include the content the revision to the checks.
Correct. Correct. And then now let's say, for example, the third scenario is like you already performed some task. Let's say, for example, there is the production team has completed a task on revision 1. Now there is a revision 2, right? Okay, now the system what it will do is now, okay, moment engineering or whoever says it that only revision 2 has to be performed, the task will be revoked actually. Whatever you signed off, the task one will be revoked. And then the production team has to recomply for the revision 2 and then do a sign off for the revision.
It might automatically revoke or must be optional.
Basically there is a option, right, for the planners, and it depends on the status. Let's say, for example, if you're not done anything, right? Okay, let's say the task is not started, then it will automatically update. The task card will be pulled out, and then the new revision 2 will be there. The scenario which I'm talking about is somebody has done a sign off. It's in progress. That is the time which will revoke, and then that task card will be taken out, and then the new task card will be.
Sir, there is also related with component maintenance and for component maintenance in workshop. So we have two sides. In tech part, the central side and the workshop side. When the new revision of manufacture come up, the tech part will input to the system. Like, for example, the revision 1 to revision 2, right? And after that, the tech part will inform to us in the workshop. There is new revisions. Yeah. So we also have like planning data sheet or PDC, we call it PDC or like similar like there's also we made form that there's a manual, we call it CMM, like component maintenance manual. And between the CMM and PDC is must align from the revision.
Yes.
If there is a new revision, we need to update our PDC. There is any prevention in the system to prevent that the old revisions distribute to the production. And also there is an and for the information also the PDC is updated by engineering workshop. It's not from tech part. The tech part only they inform that new revisions.
That's the same process what we are talking about today.
Yeah.
So the same process. The tech pub still will just the OEM document, and then does the necessary approvals, and then say that okay, new revision is survey.
Yeah.
Now it's a production engineering who has to see that the impact of that new revision into the existing work orders, and then take a determination saying that okay, so I need all the new revisions to be complied on the existing work orders.
Yeah. So during this revision, there is like interval time between the revision. There is any prevention to call this restrictions. For example, like this month, the new revisions come up. Maybe like workshop engineering need to revise the instruction like for 1 or 2 weeks. During this one or 2 weeks, is any prevention in the system?
Yeah, so basically, in fact, let's start a little earlier. Right? When the TechOps receives that documentation, there itself there will be a mechanism to alert the downstream engineering, production engineering, and the downstream saying that already there is a process of ingesting. The OEM has released the new SP, and then let's say the new OEMs of the manuals, and then that is getting processed. That information is proactively sent both to engineering team and the production team. Now the engineering team has an option to put that on hold, the task on hold.
Okay.
Right? Meaning like okay, there's already the TechOps team is working on a new revision.
What happened if the PPC like when the order in between under revision? What happened when they call for your information the PPC or PPT is they're authorized to print out the instruction job part. During this revision, is the PPC able to issue the?
Yeah. So what will happen in the system? What it will say is it will prevent printing the job part saying that already there is a new revision in progress.
Okay.
Okay, so now what will happen is, let's say if you print a old version, let's say version one, system will give a warning, right?
A warning.
Warning saying that, okay, so already there is a new version which is there. Do you still want to go ahead and print it?
Okay, that's my question. Okay, clear. Yeah? The second one is our job card or our credit sheet. It's like very frequently update our new the revision. We have like thousands of capabilities. So we maintain the new update every week or every day. We have a new revision. The revision is means new form, new form of our instruction. There is any feature of this software to automatically put into the fields for like general data, for part number, serial number, TSN, TSO, or customer or Excel. Then maybe this is.
See, when you say automatic, meaning like, you mean that automatic ingestion of the OEM documents?
No. We have meant like for example, like component has like its own part number, serial number, or customer or order, TSN, TSO. Can we export automatically to our document that our requires by ourselves?
Yeah. That obviously will have it. The screen, what you can see, right? So here you can see, this is one thing what we are talking about, right? The review impact of the existing work orders, right? Here you have on the part number, serial number, what is the work order number, which customer you are working, which way you are working. And then it will show that these are all the work orders which is getting impacted by the new revision.
But it's declared first, right?
Correct.
For example, you understand? We have ABC part number. It's
Right.
called ABC. Yes. The ABC have the revision, revision 2.
Right.
And we put the system the revision 2, the instruction document. And then after that the work order the component is come to shop.
Right.
We need to issue the new instruction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Each serial number has different unique general data.
Correct.
A serial number, especially for customer,
Right.
for work order,
Right.
TSN, TSO, and so on.
Correct.
When the PPC hold the instruction, is it automatically filled on the form
Correct.
for serial number, work order, and
Correct.
so on?
Yeah, now I understand what you say.
Yeah.
So basically, the process, what happens is, there will be a work order.
Yeah.
Okay, that work order will contain the part number, what you say, the customer and all other things, right? And for that particular work order, you will be determining what type of work you need to do. That's basically the task. Once you have a task, then the system will automatically create the work order with the instructions, what is there on that particular task. Okay, system will say that, okay, these are the tasks, let's say might be a repair task or an inspection task, etc. And then whatever that your CMM document says, what you attach, that will print automatically as a job part, which will go along with your part as it moves from one station to one station.
Okay.
So this is the screen which we are talking about, right? It's a very important screen. It connects what we are talking about, right? Both from the engine standpoint and the component standpoint. You have an SP, okay, or let's say a manual revision, and that manual revision is impacting, obviously you have a lot of work orders. Now you want to consolidatively see that what is the impact of that particular document revisions on the existing work orders. And you can see here, right? Okay, so what is the SPs, what are the different work orders, and what are the different stages of the work orders. And they here, sort of a production planning engineer say they need to review saying that, yeah, go ahead and then impact it. That is what we are talking about will happen, right? Okay, now immediately this will go and update the work orders. It will pull back your old task card and then put the new task card with the new revision.
Okay, nice. There's months for the display the demo for the engine. Yes, because I'm waiting for component.
Yes, it will come there. So basically what we'll do is, right, okay, now we are planning for the engine.
Okay.
Now one of the components we'll just, let's assume that it routes to a component shop.
Okay.
Then we'll just take it.
Okay.
So, I think this is the initial stage of planning. So let's assuming that the initial inspection of the plan is all done. This now is handed over to the shop for execution, right? At least from an engine perspective, we still have the complete engine in hand. the preliminary inspection done. We will have to start validating the configuration and now probably do a removal. And we remove it, we have like a component and component job. There. Now, just one error that maybe we will check. Would,
Planning.
Then it's explain about defect because human error. Yeah, learn from the review from the data, learn from the internet. So must be included some order from this maintenance preparation. Can you do that for the research?
Can I come in? Please.
this, not a discrepancy, the physical, the data error, but more of a human error in terms of what's the data gets mostly there. How the system can detect them.
See, obviously, one of the key things, right? Okay, there are some fields, right? Just to give an answer, right? Okay, as you know, it's very difficult to do it, right? Just to structure-wise, if you see it, right? Let's say I'm just taking a couple of examples. Okay, there is a part number. Okay, there is a task number, right? So when you do, let's say there is you are entering a T1, right? Okay, then what system does is it intelligently say that whether the T1 is there as part of your master. It has something to say that yeah, T1 is there. Now, instead of T1, you are just putting T2, right? Okay, T2 might be still in the master, right? Okay, it may recognize that's a correct task. And then, okay, there are some checks saying that whether this particular T2 is effective on this particular, there is some sort of a validation which will run in any system, right? The only thing which we may not be able to do is, especially it's on the generic field, right? Okay, there is some generic remarks field, or let's say serial number. Okay, now serial number, when you enter, S1, right? Okay, now you are entering SI, right? Okay, this is an incoming serial number, right? So the system doesn't know what is that. Might be SI is also right, S1 also right, right? Okay, so now instead of 1, that mechanic is entering SI. But the system just understands it as I. The only way to reconcile that is from the process standpoint. If it has to see whether it is previously someone engineering has done S1 and then this mechanic is entering SI, then it will give that. Otherwise, there is a possibility that it might unearth in the downstream process.
The difference issue because of the human error.
Effects issues because of the human error.
Not from the discrepancy from the inference, not from the operation.
Uh-huh.
Can we generate the order from the issue?
Can you give an example of defects generated with
If
human
we
error?
are wrong to put the rules to use it, then it will be exceeded the mark. So must be repaired, right? Part. Oh.
So see, basically, I think, yeah, so you mean say that human induced defects on the system, right? Okay, see, there is something what we call something called an occurrence reporting. So basically, this might we can just flash it. So I think that is something, right? Okay, if there is a human induced errors, right? So I'll just show you. Right? Okay, now that can be anything, right? Okay, some people might have used wrongly wrong tools, or that might have resulted in an incident or an accident or something, and then you can report that. And now what happens is this particular occurrence, right? Okay, obviously you can classify what type of occurrence, where it happened, when it happened, and what is the potential impact, etc. And this particular occurrence is linked to a quality, right? Okay, investigation, right? Okay, why this occurrence has happened. Is there any preventive measures, etc. But I think this is a one which has nothing to do with your aircraft operations, but more like a person-induced things, which you analyze it and then make some recommendations to avoid it in the future. So that process is what we call as a occurrence management.
So before we get into execution, just a little bit on the production planning for the engine, right? So waiting for this. So this is our work order scheduling module or the frame, which we discussed yesterday from our aircraft maintenance perspective. from an engine maintenance side of it. So the work order that you see right now is probably a little progressed work order. But at this stage, when we've done just the initial work scoping of the engine with probably just the preliminary inspection tasks, all you're going to have is just one set of tasks here to just be, yet to be executed, right? But assuming, let's say, we move a little forward and let's say some amount of execution has happened, let's say some removals have also been registered. What you see here in the first section is you're actually a drawing. So from for a planner who's sitting in the engine shop, he can either he has the option to either work on each engine work order at a time, because one engine work order is going to have its own volume of tasks, its own sub-assemblies that have been removed, child work orders that have gone to external vendors for repair orders. And to track that as one whole plan, you could either work with one particular engine document, engine execution document, or you could specify that okay, for a particular date range, for the next 1 week in time, what are all the engine documents that I have in my under the specific facility, and that can also be seen. So what I've done is just pick up one document for the ease of understanding how the hierarchy review can happen for engine jobs, right? So given an engine work order, you would have the initial work scoping that's planned on the engine itself, first of all. And what you see here is that hierarchy. So some amount of light maintenance. Under that, what are these tasks? And the right section of this screen is essentially a Gantt view, where you have individual Gantt bars plotted on the timeline for when they are planned to be executed during the period of maintenance. So and
How we define the activity like that in simulation? Is automatically not be defined on level.
you mean the list of tasks and how they have to be executed? Okay. It's as part of the task repository, it's a setup. So once you have the task inducted from your manual, there'll be all of these tasks will be put together in what we call as a repair scheme definition. This, right, so this is the definition that, again, once again, a master definition in the repository where you can state that for a particular work scope on the engine, what are all the detailed list of procedures or the steps that you perform, which in turn are also actually individual tasks. And these tasks can all be correlated into one procedure or a repair scheme procedure. Right. So all of these tasks, it's just a grouping of tasks in a particular sequence in which they will have to be performed. So if you can see, there is for all of these tasks here, there's also a repair sequence that is assigned. So order of sequence in which they will have to be performed. And what of that, what this does is it automatically understands or it defines that each of these tasks will have to be performed one after the other. So we call that a scheduled relationship definition between these tasks, which will determine whether the tasks will have to be performed sequentially on a finish to start basis, if we go in terms of planning, or if they have to be run in parallel, where they go on a start to start basis. This
First, then we find the task and express the task.
Yes, so you put up a group, first group task, and you map all these tasks that you've extracted from your manual. You map all of these within your group task, provide a sequence to them. The system, first of all, will assume that they will have to be performed one after the other, which means it takes them on finish to start basis. But from a case to case scenario, if you do think that it has to go on a start, on a parallel mode, that is something that you can manually intervene and do the change. So if you see, there is a set schedule relationship definition where you can come and probably specify the relationship type. Okay. So the system will understand it as finished to start by default, but if you want to set a specific definition as start between two tasks, this is where you will define it. So this is also once again one-time setup for your procedures. Once it's a setup, this is the key information that comes from planning.
We know that we need to be intent constrained by empower material tools in the part-time learner. So how to we can handle one by one for the update the stability.
So, all right. On scheduling itself, right? So, see, the production plan or scheduling, as you said, requires multiple sets of data, right? One is your job itself, which talks about what is the sequence in which it will have to be performed. And it has its own requirements. Each of those tasks will have their manpower requirements, tools, as you said, spare part requirements, right? While that constitutes the requirements, we also have to understand what is the available capacity. So your shop where the work order is to be performed, that shop defined as the work center in the application will have its own capacity definition. We're looking at so the work center has the work center has the capacity association to it, where you can define for all the employees who are available to work in that particular work center. The list of tools and equipments that are available for that as well. So
But there is a location in the RMS system.
yes, work center is a location. Yeah, it's a location. One of your shops, basically. Right? So again, it's each shop, you get to specify overall the list of employees available. Then you have your facilities, which talks about your tools and equipments. And you also associate warehouses, basically the inventory that we will have to look into for the availability of spare parts when you have a work in this work center. So with these three definitions done against a work center, this is where we get the availability information from. And the production planning uses this to validate for the given work order. It tries to compare and validate the availability is there for all the requirements that are coming from the work order. Right. So from scheduling perspective, there's one more setup which show that as well. This is another setup at a work center, sorry, on scheduling essentially, where we see
Is it the field from the work center?
sorry,
Is it the field from the work center?
yes.
How about the grouping for the one maintenance or practicing? In the reliability of the ocean how about the requisition for the maintenance? One requisition, one good scope. The maintenance. List the order activities. So in separate you or must be one is correct.
For planning you're asking or
One pen for the one requisition. One work scope.
revision?
Yeah. I am predicting it. I want to see the list order.
Okay, so, so you're talking about engine side or the
Engine side.
engine side? So it's scheduling. So this is like as a project manager, right? Okay, this would be the screen. Okay, so where you will see for a given, let's say you can obviously we are just showing for a you can see it, right? So let's say there is a multiple work orders which is being there, and each orders, let's assuming that is being planned over the future, and each work orders can be broken up into the task. Each task has its start time, end time, and then there is also a relationship after this particular task. That's what I think she said, right? So you sort of plan what needs to be worked, and then you also set up a repair scheme of the sequencing. And once you plant here, this is how it depicts, right? This is the first portion, right? Okay, this what you see on the top is primarily what you're seeing here is, okay, this is a task which is planned and this is a duration, right? And then what the color indicates is this particular work is in progress if it is green. And then if it is amber, then it is due, in progress, in progress. And red meaning it is overdue, meaning it is supposed to be completed on X day and then it is overdue, right? Now the question is, how does that it knows it is overdue, right? That is where I think it comes saying that, okay, the first question what you asked is, you apply the constraint because that you have a limited manpower or a limited parts are not available because that particular task is on hold because you don't have parts or you don't have a tooling. These are the three constraints. Mike, I think you can show that filter by exception, right? So you can see it. What are the options, right? Okay, you can see constraint based. The last one is, okay, is it a show me all the tasks which has been constrained by not having a right people? Okay, the skill availability. Okay, the next one is a facility. Facility, what we mean by is a tools, right? Okay, so these are the tasks which is been hold because of a tool. And third thing is a material, because that particular task needs a material, but that is not available, right? Okay, that is what it shows. Now the next question is, how does the system knows what is the skill availability, right? Okay, so now that is the one what we do is we prepare a roster, right? Okay, so there is a roster that on this particular work center, on this particular day, that should be supposed to be, let's say, 8 mechanics, right? Now, 8 mechanics, I'm just taking for simplification, all certified for, let's say, CA from 7B. Now, 7 mechanics ideally should be there, but your workload is, if it is equal to 7, then it will show green. If your workload is more than the available quantity, or let's say, for example, out of 7, only 5 have turned up that day, 2 didn't turn up for whatever reason, then it will automatically turn saying that you have a constraint on that particular day for that particular resource. Okay, so this is sort of answering your question, right? And this can be exploded into multiple views, right? And just for the simplicity, we keep it light. You can run for a given work order. You can see all the skills. Or if you are a little more at a higher level and you want to see, okay, show me all the work orders, right, for this work center. Let's say you are running a 50 work engines on parallel. Okay, so give me all the engine work orders which is running parallel, and then show me what is the balancing, right? So that's how we can.
So if I want to see the list of the material want to use regarding the project, you can see from next view.
Yes, so that is a, yeah, that's good. So there is a screen where you can see it, right? Okay, so there is something called what we call as a part 7. Okay, so that link can be enabled here. Okay, so currently I'll show you where it is available.
Because I'm the project manager, I want to see the start, the list matter, right?
Materials, yeah, complete list of the project, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a, where, let's say, for example, just from the scheduling screen, you can launch this, right? Okay, here also you can see whether you want to do it for a given day. Okay, so, or you want to give it for a, let's say, when I say given date, meaning for the next 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, or you can run it for a specific work order. Okay, given a work order, do you have any constraints? Or you can run it for a work center level, right? And this will give you what is the overall status of the material required and how many you have it, how many you don't have it, and is there any procurement action has been triggered, and what is an expected time. Get a complete view of the materials availability.
Because some of the customers want to know the status of the procurement tool from the list of the one project in that.
That's the action. Take some data. Take some one work order, one project. Okay.
Pass up to data.
What is it?
See, what you're looking for is just the list of parts that are required to.
Yeah, because if I'm the project manager, so they have the list of the requirement. It's not the staff. Temporary is material.
Is that one what happens, right? So, yeah. See, essentially what happens? So just to show you an example, right? So here, what happens is against an engine work order when you're doing, system will list down all of the material requests that have been generated against it. So whenever you need a part, what Ramco will do is it will automatically generate a material request for all of these part numbers. And for each and every demand that you see, you will be able to track, okay, what is the current availability? And based on that, what is the current status as well? So you can see here the demand document will be shown, and again, each and every demand, you can see that the demand is still open. It is not yet closed. So the moment the stock has been reserved or issued, the demand status changes to closed, whereas if it is open, it remains as authorized status. So that means you gives you an indication on what are the requests that are generated, requests that are pending, and requests that are consumed or issued as well. So this way, as a project manager, you'll be able to review all of these demands in one single screen and track the status.
The next thing is like if you really wants to see what is happening, right? Is it well that the sense like the first question is, yeah, do you have it or not? Okay, the next question is, will it make it? Right? Okay, so will that particular process has been done, and then is that procurement has taken some steps so that the expected receiving date matches with your hitting date, right? Okay, that's the next question. That's where I think you can see. Sorry? It's a real time, yeah. So it's because it's all everything is connected, right? Okay, so basically when you create an MR, right? Okay, then the procurement create a PRs. So the only when I say the real time meaning, right? Okay, so as long as you have some interface with the supplier, right? Supplier says it, okay, I've dispatched it. So if you have an interface, then it will be real time, right? Okay, because it has been dispatched from the supplier and then it is in transit, let's say for 5 days, then customs clearance, etc. Assuming that if we have a sufficient interface, then it will be real time. Otherwise, somebody has to enter. Let's say, for example, the supplier sends you a mail that, so I have shipped this and all this stuff, then they need to enter it.
So this is a report, right? So while you're tracking it, so let's say, for example, you're sitting in the morning 8 o'clock meeting, and now you need to decide, okay, what are the open engine work orders, for which, what are the demands, what are the parts, and which are open, right? So we have this requisition report. So what you can do is you can flash this in the front, and now what you can see here is a list of all the demands with the ESN, and now it will tell you where you can see order is blank, which means that the demand is still open, but there is no order available against these particular demand as well. And as you keep scrolling, here you will be able to see the real-time details, like what is the demand, what is the PO that is linked to it, what is the status of that particular PO, and how many are coming in. And based on that, what is the order quantity, what is the expected delivery date. And not just that, if you see here this consignment status field, now this comes from our ecosystem. So as I was saying yesterday, Ramco is fully interfaced with FedEx International, DHL Express, and UPS. So when you have the available number against any of these documents, whatever is the real-time shipment status that comes from them will also be updated in this particular field. So as a project manager or as a project supervisor, what you're doing is you're able to review the complete status. Like here, order user status will come from your spec 2000. So in the spec 2000, what is your current status? Like on like it is shipment notice has been received or supplier has changed the date. So all the real-time spec 2000 interface will be seen.
Is that what you are looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. So this is what exactly it will tell you. Okay, so what is happening on a particular work order, and then whether that parts comes. And you have another screen as well.
Yeah. So similarly here, it doesn't just show you PO. So let's say, for example, you have some manufacturing that you're doing, then the manufacturing work order, the component work order, the component work order status, what is the expected dates when you're planning to complete. So it gives you the full visibility of all the possible steps that you have taken to resolve your demand. Now this is for your spare parts. So for all the spare parts that you have, for which you need to do it. But what we also do is, let's say for example, we have a kitting operations screen. Now what this kitting operations screen does is essentially give you a breakdown of the complete engine configuration, and based on that, what is the current status, whether it has been disassembled, whether it is in work, whether it's in progress.
Because we have some project in Hanabi, I know that one work scope maybe can be 5,000 orders.
Yeah.
And then the basic of material, 12,000 line items.
Yeah.
Administrative and so.
Yeah, correct. Especially this is what you can prioritize actually. So obviously, even though in the sense this is like another screen, right? Okay, the difference between that and this is like, okay, so this will go at your configuration level, right? Because the target objective of particular thing is, or you want real time to make that assembly process active, right? Because each one of these line items is, you need to assemble it to make the real TA. The screen before that, okay, you might need a multiple piece parts and all the stuff which is getting ordered, right? So this is another way where you can track where is it a problem, right? This is very important screen, not only just to track, but also to make some decision management, right? Let's say, for example, if your TAT exceeds certain limit, like your subcontracting says and it will get delayed, then possibly you might need to think of swapping from your existing customer engine, which is getting due, or you can use, ask for a customer whether you can do certain exchanges, etc. Right? So this is, from a project management standpoint, this is the very most important thing. Okay, so especially it is used for your review, right? To take some calls, because any delays, it's going to impact your delivery time. And coming back to your point, right? Okay, how do you qualify this? This also has been ranked based on your assembly schedule, right? Okay, so you need to focus only on the assembly schedule, which is getting started now, right? Okay, 48 hours before that, let's assuming that the part should be there. You can say that, okay, give me all the tasks which is going to assemble in the next 48 hours, and then is it ready, etc. So you can just prioritize it, and then you can.
So this, if you see, is a pure project management scheme, right? So, but it doesn't just give you the visibility and the Gantt chart, but also it helps you mitigate any delays that you're encountering, right? So when we go through the gate 2 process of kitting and marshalling, that's when we'll see the whole process of disassembly and then all the way to receiving, kitting and assembly. But in high level, you can see for each and every items, the red indicates that they are currently disassembled. And now against that engine work order, you see there is a module work order. And against that module work order, there is a component work order as well. So gives you a full breakdown of what are the additional work orders that have been created at each module level. And now, if we go down, let's say for example, this particular module is getting delayed. Now this delay will create a problem in completing your overall, right? So you can just select this particular line. And now you also see there is a sourcing option available, where you as a project manager or marshaller would be able to review, okay, what do I have to mitigate this? So it says me that there are 5 items already open on other work orders which are serviceable. Okay, so where the work has been completed, and if you click on those 5, you can see a list of all of those work orders and the ownership of items where the parts are, what is the individual serial number. So here, now that you have reviewed it, you can see there's a work order open. So now you can also initiate a swap. So because this is creating a delay in your work order, there is already a same part of different serial number, which is serviceable on the other work order. So what you can do is you can just click and say that you are going to do a store. So you can say that you will take the source from your order, so execution document, and then you can select exchange. And then if you do hard swap, then the part will be removed from this engine, disassembly, and then you will do a repair, and then it will satisfy the other engine, and then the other engine part will now be removed and do. So just what you're doing is with one screen, you're able to review the complete availability, and based on that, take decisions as well. So this is another screen that generally what we have seen in one of our projects is that this is what the marshaller or the PM uses to visualize in a big screen and then see, okay, this is good, this is green, this is red, and then take the decision.
Thank you, Pak. Let's talk about the material. How about the manpower?
Manpower is the scheduling screen that you mentioned.
You know,
Yes.
1 second. as mentioned, right, we can have multiple like maybe dozens of projects. We have like a dashboard where we have like per project and yellow, green, or red based on the material availability or resource availability.
Yes, so today you're talking about the engine availability status, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
like
we have what, yeah, we have the executive level, right? It's how
Yes.
multiple engines.
Okay.
What regarding the status of every
Yeah, so you can see here. So this is going to show you all of the engines that are available. So you can see here. So let's say, for example, here you will have the CityLink, so the customer logo, and then multiple ESN. That is, that is currently work that is being done, and you can see what are the works that are happening in each gate. Now, yellow will indicate that the flag here to say that there is a TAT list, and then there is a delay encountered. There is anything in green, you can see in the gate 2, there are engines in green, which indicates that the planned milestone for this engine was to be here on this gate, which is what it is. So it tracks your planned milestones, it tracks your planned delivery, planned start dates. Based on that, this is a real-time dashboard. This is what gets projected on the top to see overview of all the engines that are being worked as well. So you can filter this based on the number of customers that you want to see, or only based on specific engines that you want to see, so that it can also drill down as well. Another thing what we do here is
the dashboard for the 100 same like this.
sorry.
The dashboard for the 100 meters.
Yeah,
It's the same framework. Yeah, right now we are just really.
So it is will be in the gates, and your handle will be in the phases, right?
Okay.
So these phases, okay.
How about component?
Component will be based on the work centers. Okay, so basically we know what is the different work centers, what is your current, what is your, how many components are in waiting, how many components are in progress, and what is the rate of delivery.
So
Yeah, I'll show you now. Actually, I was just about to show. So we have shown you from an engine work scheduling, because engine is following a gated process, but components are, like quick turnaround, but more volumetrics, right? So for that, what we do is we do this like component MRO dashboards, where you're able to visualize the complete current service center, what is the load, what is the availability as well.
because current system we like extract from our data and make our own dashboard from Power BI. If the actually good.
So you're using Power BI, right?
Yeah.
So we are also using Power BI, or we use another one of our internal tool called as Bingo, which is a dashboarding utility that we use to sort of build this dashboard. So if the daily operations board is going to give you that, like visibility here. So you can see here how many are run ready, how many are, so these are metrics, so what is your current order summary, how many are on fresh, which means that it's not released for execution, how many are on hold, how many are in progress. And if you click on that, you can, like further drill down as well. And so really what is your.
On those categories can be modified. It's based on our own system.
Yeah,
Yes.
description.
Because you use Power BI, and this is also running with the dashboarding tool, which is Power BI. So you can use the standard, and then if your IT team can also change the layout, add new fields, add new designs, and based on then publish these dashboards. Now the benefit is these dashboards are still running within Ramco. They're not running with an external URL. It still runs within Ramco, taking the data from your data warehouses, and based on that publishes the data in your dashboarding screen as well. And if you want to do, what you can also do is you can further drill that down as well. So if I drill down, then it will also give me like an Excel report of same thing. So what is my work order, the customer order, part number, serial number, the record process code, what is my planned start date, planned end date, promised delivery date, and based on that, what is the total value that has been accumulated as well. So anytime you click on any of the links, it drill down into like an Excel report, which you can then again export it into Excel as well. So this at least to give you from a component MRO reporting as well. And so from an engine also, because what you saw first was a very high level dashboard, right?
Yeah.
It was only like a gated process, but now you also want to review the individual visit of an engine as well. So for that, what we do is you can specify a work order. Now what happens is for a work order that is being done, if you want to do the engine visit summary. Okay. Right? So now here you can see. Yeah. So for an engine work order, you will be able to review and see what is my visit timeline. So what was my pre-induction?
Can we show for all of the projects first in 1 month?
So yeah, this is all of the projects. So you can create your own gates and say which engine work order is pre-induction, assembly, cleaning, repair, like that. And then what you can do is you can, so for example, select one particular work order. Now for that work order, if we give you a timeline of, like when did you start the pre-induction, the disassembly, cleaning, repair, marshalling, assembly, and based on that, what is the cost breakdown, and which of the items are completed from a marshalling perspective as well. So it tells me that LPT, LPC, and HPT, how much percentage of them marshalling has been completed as well. So it gives you a good breakup. And then if there are any pending approval, right? So if you're doing third-party job and certain exchanges or LLPs replacements are pending customer approval, so what is pending customer approval that is delaying you from this particular work order as well? So one, you can see the overall view and then drill into it to get more details of your engine visit summary in one single screen as well.
All showing. Is it also for the main parts?
Yes.
On the C class or expendable.
No, so right now it can include everything. So including these parts, like expendable items, which are also list, and also main parts as well, modules, accessories parts, for all of those parts you can include. So that is my spare parts. So spare parts it will track based on my availability. So what are the spare parts needed? What do I have? What is still pending to be purchased or pending to be received as well? So we include that to find out which of the tasks are getting delayed because of the spare part availability as well.
Sorry, sir. I have been about the configuration.
Yeah.
In the engine, we have some natural type, the local configuration, right?
Yes.
In configuration, there are two. Is so or only the local configuration?
No, it's include. So it includes the engine configuration instant. So yeah, it includes everything. Notable, repairable piece parts, which is expendable, non-reliant, expendable as well. And that's tracked together. If you see, remember, you see, right? So this color indicates they are, like piece parts, this orange color. So they are all expendable items that are shown. And this will have quantity. You can see in the end, there is 2 quantities which is displayed. So it gives you a breakup. And if you go to the down, get details, if you will see the same details in a multi-line as well. So if you click on the get details at the engine level. Yeah, so if I do display level 0. Yeah, so you can see here, it gives you a full breakup of what is the part number, the position type, whether it's a module, whether it's a repairable, expendable piece part. So it gives you the full breakup of what parts are available as part of your engine configuration. So you can track it based on the level in which you want to do the tracking. Yes, rotable, repairable, expendables. Yes, aircraft also. So we use the same. Yes, you can. But then you don't track them at a serial number level, you track them at a quantity level. So what happens is when you do a disassembly, Ramco will give a generator tracking number and give it to the items, and then the quantity will be tracked at the aircraft level.
Requirement.
Sorry? Yes. Yeah.
Is there any identification to mention that some condition let's say removal part from engine, then this part should be repair outsourced. It is there is any identification to connect the repair outsource with the ongoing project.
To me, what tracking dashboards?
I think in the part monitoring this part service.
So the AC must be someone and someone to us.
It is.
Yeah, identification to connect between repair order with the order
Yes.
of the engine.
Correct. So you remember the same screen, right? The kitting screen. So here, what I'm doing is, it gives me a complete breakup of my engine. So you can see these are work orders, but as you scroll down, you will also see. You can see here exchange. So now what it tells me is this particular module or this particular item against your engine has been removed, and now there's an exchange order that has been initiated to exchange an item from the vendor or exchange an item with another customer as well. And similarly, RO is nothing but what we call it as a repair order, which is a subcontract order which has been raised to submit it. So you can see here, it will show me. It will show me what is the repair order number that has been generated. And then for that repair order, what is the expected delivery date, who is the repair vendor, so gives me all of those details as well, based on which I'll be able to track what is the date. So now what I'm tracking here is, so what I'm tracking here is that this is my duration in which the part is sent out for subcontract, and now it is going to come back in as well.
After the repair order is received in the
Yes.
let's say after receipt, then automatically the part will direct to the.
Yeah. So if you see the legend side, so I'll show you the visibility. So this is the status that will show. Right now the status. Yeah. See, right now this shows in work, this color, right? Which means that the repair order is already created and it is in work. Then it will become green to say that the repair is completed in the subcontract, and now you have received an item in your warehouse. From receiving, you will do an acceptance, right? So you will do an inspection and accept the item, and then it will go to the kitting area. In the kitting area, you will do a kitting, and then you will do an assembly of an item. So in one speed, you are going to track the complete life cycle of every item which is installed on an engine to see from pending all the way to assembly as well. So all of that can be done here. So you can see it will give a color code for you. And also on the top, you will be able to see the quantity. So 375 is pending, 24 is in work, nothing is completed, what is partially received. So like that, you will be able to track the complete life cycle of your components as well.
How if the supply comes is purchase?
Sorry?
Again, if there are requirements in material, then something like the purchase order will connect to the.
I will show you the PO number over here. Just like I'm showing it.
So the procurement side, the procurement should be aggregate all the requirement or execute one by one.
It's an aggregation or a one by one, depending on how the demand has been created. So every engine will have, or every work order or project will have its own demand. Now, procurement team can use one demand to a PO, or they can plug multiple demands for the same part number and put it in one PO as well. So then what happens is you have demand from 5 engines propagating across one single PO, and then one PO will have 5 quantities, but the demand will have 1 quantity each. So the same PO number will then be listed for all of the 5 different projects that you're working on.
But the initial request is by project.
Initial requested by project.
And then you can aggregate.
In the PO. Or I remember I told you also we have an MRP module. So what that module will do is, again, it will aggregate all of your forecasts. Let's say you want to do a forecasting for the next 6 months. It will just segregate based on that and convert it into one PO. And then if one PO of 5 lines will break into 5 different demands for 5 different ESN as well. So that engine removal forecast comes from Garuda Airlines, which is what will then be converted into a demand document to do an overhaul or whatever work scope needs to be done. So demand is always projected for. Aggregation happens at the PO level.
How about the landing gear? How do you handle the landing gear? Is it like a scenario or component scenario?
It will be more on a stated engine scenario only. But only thing is, in landing gear, you will have some more elements, like what is the ship set, and also some other elements influences the MRP, right? Like for example, the scrap rate or the number of unscheduled removals. So we'll use the same paper, and against the landing gear, you'll be able to see the assembly and track the configuration status of those assemblies as well. So engines, APUs, and landing gears. So we usually consider them as a complex assembly, and based on that, we follow the complex assembly maintenance process, which is what we do. Landing gear is 50-50. Some treated as components, some treated as complex assembly, but engine and APU is always treated as a complex assembly, and these are the streams in the framework that is used from a complex assembly maintenance.
some case we set the part.
Yeah.
Also to the value. Maybe part number is A1, part number is A1. To the value 2, I where to some to the value. And then the value result, the boundary stage.
Yeah.
A2. So what the to look at in this order.
So what happens is, this is for subcontract, right?
Yeah. I mean the status of the orders being
Correct. I'm just showing you that. So what happens is, for any subcontract work that you send out a part, we create a repair order transaction. Okay. So now what happens is, in the case of repair order transaction, the moment you ship a part to the vendor, now the vendor can come and update that they want to do certain modifications, and based on that your part number will change. So what we do is, in the repair order that has been created, what we will do is we convert this go return option part number change account. So now what that happens is, same repair order, you send part A, but because of certain modification, it became A1. So now, here you don't change anything. When the stores receive an item, when your warehousing team receives it, they'll see the ARC as 1A, and they'll just be able to type 1A, and system will allow it because you have selected the part number change as allowed, and your engineering document is also confirming that there is a configuration change that will happen. And then when the part number changes, it will automatically be installed on the engine as well, because the engine also is having that FB applicable.
So now we check the in the order and in right?
No change. This is how you do it. That's it. Simple. So because you needed traceability, what was removed?
We need this practically.
Yeah, what was removed, what was sent, what was received, and what was installed. That can sometimes be a modified part number, or it can be a valid alternate part as well that you have received from the vendor. So it will not change anything, but only it will subsequently do it in the receiving process.
I think that's the question that we asked HQ as well. The part number change, it's a different part number that you receive from the vendor than what the originally sent. That answers that question.
Yeah, so the changes, all the modifications are happening in the transaction without you having to manually do those changes.
The configuration is also automatically taken care because you know what is the original configuration, what is the changed part, and is a configuration automatically changes.
How about the manpower?
Manpower is part of the production planning itself, where so manpower, we saw tasks have the need of what manpower they, what is the skill requirements they need, and we also saw at shop level what are available. So the production planning, what it does essentially is to block the dates for each of these tasks based on the requirement and the availability. So it matches every task talks about the requirement, what skills are required, what are the license requirements, and comparing that with the available employees in your shop and what licenses they possess. The mapping of manpower is done automatically by the system. Only if this manpower availability is seen, the system actually schedules these tasks out. And that can also be an automatic assignment by the system. You can see there's a second that we talk about the assignment. So these are, say, the task asset is called requirement. This is the requirement that we will look for and will be assigned.
In the Broadway production, in the Ramco system, the self-supporting bus must be the best option in the conference.
So I will get the question.
What is the best approach for
Deployment.
yeah, deployment Is it the cloud-based or on-prem?
So I think it depends, right? Okay, we have seen both. Okay, so some parameters drive for that particular decision making. So one is like if you're extremely a defense centric, right? Okay, so then an on-prem makes sense. If you're more tilted to a civil business, then the cloud makes more sense from the total cost of ownership standpoint. Cloud. The advantage of the cloud is also like we have an elasticity. So as you know, it doesn't consume the static capacity. Right? When you need a peak, then it will just augment it. When you are not doing it, then it has that thing. So overall exposure will be very. But yeah, the defense, normally we work really with US defense, right? So they have their own restrictions to have on-prem because it is suited. So from the time check standpoint,
Well, on track. 11:30.
Okay. Late.
Belum. Masih lah.
Because I see almost the rainbow solution in the web page.
yes, yeah, it's web based. It's purely web based. So it's been there web based for the last 20 years sections. Okay. You don't need to do anything on your desktops, and then you need to have something.
Just login.
Yeah, you just have a login and then credentials, and that's it.
At least during the time, I start new business process. How do about the customer?
See, we broadly, consider three areas, right? So especially when we discuss on that, right? So one is you have a configuration. So meaning like that business process needs, there are some different workflows, right, within the system. Right? You would have configured one workflow, and then if you need to change the workflow, right? Okay, so because of a change in the business process, that's configuration. So that can be done by the system administrators as well. Right? That is number one. Second type of customization can come from the reports. Let's say, for example, Ramco has, let's say we give 3 reports for each of it. Then you can pick up, let's say, a PO report. You have 3 options. You pick up anything. Now I'm taking a case, right? Okay, as you go in, the customer is asking you, saying that, yeah, I need this report in this format. So customer is, imposing some. These are some of the practical things which we have seen. Right? There are 2 options to it, right? Okay, number first option is if you see from a platform, the first station, right? There is a platform capability. Anything which is reports or alerts can be done by GMM for Garuda IT itself. Right? Okay, so that is the first option. Meaning you develop it, you maintain it, and then there is no involvement. Or the second option is, okay, you can outsource this back to OEM, that is Ramco, and then we can develop it. Okay, this is primarily on the reports, alerts, and other things. The third important thing which you are coming to is, like, let's say, for example, what you are asking is not there in the system. It's not even supported. Now, if that is the case, right, okay, what will happen is there is a process, right? Because obviously we cannot eliminate that need, right? Definitely it will come in and all this stuff. So there will be a request which will be raised by you, right? Any customer side would say. And this will be included to the project management team. Okay, so that's the project management team, and then they will analyze what is that requirement is. The first classification is if it is coming from a regulatory or statutory, right? Okay, because it is driven by the local regulatory, right? Okay, then obviously we have to take it because we cannot say we cannot comply because end of the day it's a regulation. Right? So that we will take it. It will go into the product. The second cleaning is, okay, what you're asking makes sense. Okay, that has been asked with other major airframe as well. Then the product team may say that, yes, okay, we will take it, but we will deliver it in this time frame, right? 6 months, 8 months, or 10 months, etc. So because what you're asking is not very specific to GML, but it is generically applicable, right? So that is basically the product management will advise saying that, yes, we'll take in the product, but we will deliver it on this particular dates, etc. The third scenario is what you are asking is very GMF specific. Let's take a case, right? We are not seeing that sort of requirement coming from the other larger models. but it looks like, that is very, very specific to GML. And that will be treated as a personalization, right? Okay, then we'll say that, yeah, this doesn't looks like coming from all. And this looks like a very specific to you. Then obviously, then you have an option whether it can be customized only for you. And if that is it, GMF is in alignment with that, then possibly we'll take it as a development. And that will be given only to GMF. It will not go to the other vendors. This is broadly a process which we follow. And every process, there's a system to whatever I told, there's a system, right? Okay, so how do we define whether what you're asking is, etc. Then whatever the requirement, what we put it, then other MROs also will say that, yeah, this is correct, this we needed, etc. Then we voting system that's all.
So the way is so first do the run, and then what is decided, and then what the three options you said.
Sorry, come again?
Yeah, the first way is on the concept of the RAMCO, and then after the evaluation, and then from the three way.
Yeah, the first is like Ramco will do it, right? Okay, Ramco will do it now because it's a regulatory. Because there is regulatory from an FAA, EASA. We don't have a choice, right? We cannot say that I will deliver it after 6 months because the regulatory has given something, right? I need this report, etc. Then we need to do right now. Okay, that's number one. Number two is Ramco may determine that what you're asking is good, but it's not a regulatory, then Ramco may take time to deliver it. Again, that also will be in the product. That will be also free of charge, right? Okay, there will not be any charge. This is the second scenario. The third scenario is what you're asking is very specific to GMF Garuda. Then Ramco can deliver. Obviously, there will be a commercials involved, and then that particular enhancement will be delivered only to GMF.
You have to have manpower, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so as you see, you just say that the capacity of each of the personnel comes from the roster. So we understand what is the shift that they are available on, what is the exact duration of the time frame for which they're available, and that taken from the roster plan is kind of projected here as well in conjunction with your job information. So this is an assignment that the system is done by comparing with each task what is the skill requirement and license requirement, and as against that, who are the employees who are available in that particular shop or your work center, and who is the best fit to do this particular job by, in terms of the skill and license match, as well as comparing with their availability based on their roster. This indication that you see here, in fact, each day there is a shaded region and a blank space, right? So the shaded region actually indicates the time that they're actually available during that time, and the other areas are not available. What the system does is it does the assignment based on the availability. So every task is automatically assigned over here, and from an availability perspective as well, so you can also have a view like this, which indicates that okay, a person is available for almost 9 hours each day, and the system has been able to utilize that manpower of that particular person for 8 hours or 8.5 hours on that day. So this assignment is done automatically. So manpower match is done during the production scheduling automatically. But if you wish to change this, you also have an indication here, in the availability, which shows you whether that particular person is in for the day or not. So coming from your attendance system, right? So if you also look at it, this information is also interfaced. It will also indicate whether for a given day, for the jobs to which a person is actually assigned for, they've really turned up. For whatever reason, the person has not come up, that indication is given here so that you can go ahead and make any manual corrections as well. So somebody assigned to this, you say that you see that okay, it's not available. You can move this simply. You just move this task to another person, and that assignment is also automatically flipped. Right. So
the view from the project side and then the assignment side. When we zoom in or zoom out, it's going to reflect the same date, right?
Yes, the date. So
you
can just like this, or zoom out, it's the same. The calendars are the same thing. So that's how you actually also understand if the person is available for that task duration.
Can we have a status whereby this project is not assigned to anybody? So that we can.
Yes, so you have a status filter here, where you can see quickly how many are assigned, how many are unassigned. So you can just filter for just those tasks that are unassigned, right?
Assign, assuming that the owners can assign the person. Yeah.
Yes, for the person, yes, that's correct. Currently, it shows the availability and assignment for the personnel. I don't show the assignment status for it for that.
I'm like, I'm the worker, and I want to know the schedule tomorrow. What the status of the project and what the owners can do in the.
You can. So that can also be done on the app. So we have an app for the mechanic and wear app, so which will be used by the mechanics. So to begin their day with, they will be able to see what is assigned to them and start their job. So that's something that they choice.
So from a planning standpoint, you can see if your role is more of a planner, what is planned for next day across the work center, etc. You can see. From a life of a mechanic, let's say I'm an engineer, what is my task for tomorrow's race, then you will see it in the next session where you will have like a calendar and then the calendar is been broken into tasks.
Okay. So for example, we have a multiple tasks which is doing parallel, right? In parallel. So whenever I already assign that part of the task, and then we still queue in the filter that it is only for the unassigned, then automatically that part is going to be got in this one, right? I'm only focusing on the one that is not yet.
Not assigned, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Disposisi kan asal kan asal existing business regulation. So have you discussed about disposition?
We touched on the, we recollect the visit topics, the LLP tab, right? There is a disposition. Again, we will, that's the scenario is you're determining the disposition as part of your engineering. Now the second scenario, right? Okay, actually your engine has arrived. Right? Okay, you're physically seeing an engine. And then when you see the physical part of the engine, that will be seen in the mobile application. The next session.
Oh, it's a second session. So it's in the mobile app.
Mobile.
So,
By the mechanics.
by the mechanics. So the first scenario is engineer is taking a disposition based on the paper. He is not seeing the engine because the paper document has arrived, 2 weeks or 4 weeks before it, right? So he knows that it is the remaining life is this much anyway. That's the relation. Right? What we see in the mechanic is a physical disposition. Like physically, the part is damaged, whatever it is. Right? So that we'll see as part of it.
Okay.
But we can see. So from the RMS standpoint, right, so to data your question, so there is a possibility that same mechanics or engineers can be loaded into two tasks parallelly.
Yes.
So that is also supported, system supports. Okay, so say, let's say for example, there might be some chemical cleaning task. Right? Okay, so that is where you bulk the prorated, yeah. So what we will do is like this, where is a chemical cleaning, like the task is going to be same, the cleaning task. Okay, you bulk different work orders, like which is all going to it, right, the same task, and then you put 1%, right? And then we prorate its time accordingly to the number of work orders. There is some logic which we can see.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah, we will prorate it. So basically, let's say it's the 8 hours, it's your task, right? Okay, and then you're doing, let's say, one mechanic, and there are 4 work orders, right? So then approximately the 4 hours each. Yeah. Number of total time divided by number of hours. And we will also have a labs.
So this is the
So this is the app, right? The app on an iPad, which is also available on an Android as an Android version. So this is the Mechanic Anywhere app, essentially used by the technicians on the shop floor, right? So as soon as they log in, so to-do list is the section where they can, quickly understand. We were just discussing that for a technician, for him to start his day, to understand what are the list of tasks that he's assigned for that particular day or for the next, week or anything. This is where he gets to see. So if you can see, you have the list of assigned tasks. Anything that's assigned task will probably be what's still pending. He's still not initiated his work, but any job that he's already initiated, but the task, let's say, is in progress, not yet completed, that also comes separately for scheduling. Okay, so this is the list that he can start his day from. But if he also knows exactly the job that he's going to work on, just get down to the document directly. Let's say execution document. Okay. So assuming he has the document,
I think,
So for the component.
I think we try to cover it after this as well, but if you see from our execution perspective, it will still have the same layout. What you see here is from an engineering report, component is the same, part number serial number, but the component is the serial number. Basic problem,
Yes.
But before technicians say the planning and what's scoping of component, you cover this.
so yeah, so for a mechanic, just clicking on the job that he's about to work on, just picked up one engine work order, and within the engine work order, you see the total number of tasks that have been planned inside. Getting into the tasks list, just going to pick an inspection here. So the first, stage in execution, as soon as the engine has arrived, would probably be assuming that we've done the cleaning and all of that. So we would have an inspection that has to be performed, and for each inspection, just picking the task for the inspection, moving into the task information. Looking at tasks, right? So here, if you see, while performing the inspection, for the physical inspection, while we perform the physical inspection, I think one of the key focus area would be to validate the part and serial number of each of these subassemblies, right? The physical validation. So for that, when you come in here, and if you do know that, there's a so if you notice, so there's a small gear icon there. The moment I get into it, so what I see here is while I do the inspection process, I get a clear picture. It's just coming up there. So it brings up my engine configuration. So the complete engine that I've received. So it brings up the first level of my engine configuration where I can see the module part numbers and the serial numbers that are identified to be installed at this point in time. The primary input for this would be the visit reference. Right. So we had updated the installed part and serial number as we had received from the customer in the document.
The difference from
Correct. This is the reference from the first stage, the pre-induction stage. So you have the part and serial numbers that were identified at that point listed out here. And from here, what you can do is, if you think, for each and every module that you identify on that from physical engine and the configuration, if this looks right, you proceed with your disassembly process. But let's just assume that there was something, the serial number is incorrect, or in fact, you've even marked a particular module stating that it's unknown. Basically, you don't know the exact serial number that is installed on that position, right? So if you do have any variations of that sort, so what we have here is something called as a configuration revision request. So you see the option, the fourth one in line, right? Configuration revision request. So that is something that the mechanic can do where he says, okay, he opens up this request stating that in this particular position, what I'm seeing is probably not, let's say if it's an incorrect part, it's not 3A, but let's say I'm finding a 3B, or the serial number is incorrect, or in case there was no part and serial number identified in the visit, this would be blank here. So which means you can come and enter the physical part and serial that is identified on the physical engine right now. You can also take picture of what you see. So if you notice, you can take an image from here. I've just gone into the attachments. Go into the picture, you can take an image and attach it back against this this configuration revision request. Is also an alternate scenario, right? With correcting the inconsistencies, but identifying, let's say, a part and serial that was not there, unknown, now you're identifying them. Or what could also happen is, let's say part and serial was, I mean, the documents that it was attached. Right now here you're finding that maybe the part position is empty, it's missing. You don't really have a physical attachment. So all the data elements that you were able to update in the visit reference with respect to installed part and serial number, or identifying whether it was missing, or let's say there's a part serial missing and you want to correct that. All of these things can be provided here. In fact, if you also find this part, not installed, physically installed on the engine, but you have found it out separately, that as well found disassembled can also be identified here. You can put in your remarks, make an attachment, take it in picture, make an attachment, and what you do is you save this request. So what happens is, there are two things that can happen. One is if this correction or a revision that you're asking for is against, let's say, a piece part position, expendable position, right? Then it's not really a high value part. You may even say that it can automatically be corrected on my configuration so that you can proceed with the disassembly. But being the first stage of configuration, if we're talking about it at module level, you may want the engineering to validate it before it moves to disassembly. Right? Probably, why was there an inconsistency between the customer documents or the pre-induction records that you receive and the physical engine that you have. So what happens is when you save this data, the system puts this for a review with the engineering. Yeah. So if you look at it now, I just saved it, and you have a configuration revision request generated at the top, and it says, it's been generated in fresh status. The mechanic can now confirm this. Now what happens is this goes for an engineering review. So if you notice that particular position is now it's changed from a green color to an amber color, which means that removal cannot happen. Disassembly cannot be done. It's pending for review with the engineering team. Somebody has to validate this change. Now it goes back to the visit hub and the engineering, where the engineer can validate what is this change. It's the right part and serial number that we updated. They updated onto the configuration and approve this change from there. So the approval has to come from the engineering team. This can be automated for piece parts, but maybe for higher value parts and for modular level parts, the approval might be required. I mean, it depends on the workflow that you might want to follow. And once that approval comes in, this would once again turn back into green for the mechanic to proceed with this disassembly. So only if this change, the physical identification variations are authorized by the engineering team through the visit process, you can proceed with the disassembly. So this is part of the physical configuration validation, so which may happen during your inspection stage. Yeah. So assuming, let's say, the part and serial is all right from here, you move with your disassembly, right? So same thing, I'm just going to put the second position here. So if I just want to disassemble this part, same, I have the option to disassemble here. So the first one of disassembly takes me to the disassemble frame, where the part and the serial number is automatically populated. I don't really have to key in them once again. So because it comes from the configuration, I validated that it is the right part and serial number on the engine. So all I have to do is identify a disposition. So if you remember, we were talking about the engineering disposition that it happened at the visit stage by the engineering team. Now this is the physical, the disposition that the mechanic is finalizing at the point of disassembly to decide what happens to this removed unit and where it has to go. Right? So all of these disposition codes are actually configurable options in the system today. So each, the name itself can be, because the code itself can be configured. And what happens against that code, whether you need the part to be, you want to remove the part as an unserviceable unit, which means you send it to a repair, or you remove it as a serviceable unit, no repair required, but you directly probably move it to the kitting area directly because the part is probably in those condition, serviceable condition, right? So all of that is determined by the disposition code here. So if you just see, or if you think the part has to be scrapped, you can also scrap it. Let's just say if you want to repair it, you choose this. You provide a certain reason. correction, for mod or limited repair. These are all just codes in the system that can be configured. Say you want to repair it, and then save this, save and confirm it. So this records the unique. Yes,
Is this process is done or after the inspection process?
this is after the inspection.
After inspection,
So
so it's going to be to something because they say this assembly process and also inspection process. Is it the same screen? By just two person? Same screen.
2%, so you have 1% for
On stage because after the inspection, which is after this assembly, and also the detailed inspection, which is the inspection itself. That's why it's become one.
it becomes one.
Because there's also the decision of serviceable, which is after inspection.
Correct. And it is also iterative, right? Like for every scale, every removal it keeps happening. So you have the module level where you inspect the module. The first physical validation is done. You remove the module. You have an inspection for the module now. So once you remove it, you send it for a repair. You will have a separate order. So the moment you disassemble, you're saying that you're removing it as an unserviceable unit. And if that particular module in the part master has been discussed, if it says that it's an in-house repair that you have to perform, then there's a separate child module work order is automatically generated. And that module work order now will have its own inspection process pertaining to that, right? Now, once again, it goes back to the work scoping of that module, where you can add your inspection tasks and then those inspection tasks will be performed. Now, inside for that particular module, then the same process begins once again. For the module, you have a configuration. Now, you physically validate those sub-assemblies. Then once again, you go for the next level of test. So this is an iterative process, right? Your inspection and disassembly go on until the stage where you've completely probably tear down your engine or the level to which you want for that particular work scope.
Yes. How do we then manage the ownership of parts? For example, to assembling the parts. If we have many similar parts and different customers, there's a differentiation that's related to ownership between one customer to other customer. Because if customer A cannot to install the customer B parts, there's a differentiation. And also we also the disassembly process or in process. If we remove process, there is any assign the customer ownership to the part and we remove for the stuff.
So each of these components carry their ownership information. So from which customer's engine that they have been removed from, ownership stamping against them. And there's also to manage different customers' stock, we also have stock status.
Yeah.
So you can have custom stock status.
So the ownership is like when you remove a card from this customer engine, automatically system assigns the ownership.
Yes.
So like then when you receive an engine, all the service assemblies will automatically be assigned with that particular customer's ownership.
Okay. How about the exchange model? I mean that if we have like project or order, and we have our own parts, and then the project will buy our parts. That's will happen across the ownership installation. Nice. There is possible to do it.
So what we do is against every, let's say for example, exchange can happen at any moment.
Yes.
It can happen in component maintenance, it can happen for the top assembly, or it can happen for the sub assembly.
Yes.
Right? Or in the case of engine, it will be usually the modules or the accessories where you're initiating an exchange. So the exchange order is initiated in the system. Now what happens with the exchange is initiated is, you decide what type of exchange it is. So we have two types. One is flat exchange, which means it's an upfront exchange. So customer part will become your part will become customer part. Or exchange with repair, which means ownership will still change, but you are also going to charge the customer for the repair of your part along with the exchange cost as well. So what happens when you create an exchange order with reference to a work order or with reference to an item in stock, it will automatically trigger a cross ownership change. So item from customer will become GMF owned, GMF owned items automatically becomes customer owned. The value will also be swapped. Serial number that comes into your inventory from customer will take the same value which is already stored for that particular GMF owned unit as well. So that way you're still depreciating that asset with your books while maintaining the ownership change at a work order level as well. That happens seamlessly within the system without any manual ownership code change. The system automatically changes the ownership through what we call it as a stock ownership. Yeah. So that I think also showcase you in the component maintenance of how that works. But it's a similar process for any, be it aircraft component or engine, exchange order transaction. But it also sometimes, you remember I showed you the kitting screen where you have a swapping process where you're not just exchanging from a GM mode item, but maybe exchanging from another customer engine to your customer engine, you're swapping some parts. So we have a contracting module. So that contracting module specifies are you allowed to use other customers' stock to do this particular repair? And if yes, what are the customers? Let's say Garuda and Sikkim, you can do a swap. But let's say Garuda and Flypanda, you can't do it, right? So that's how the contract will be set up. The same for Flypanda, no ownership change at all. For Garuda, yes, allowed to swap the ticketing. And that's what kitting scheme will give you the visibility for you to then do a swap. Are you able to understand? I think because right now we are on the mechanic anywhere view, so I thought I'll explain you theoretically as well on this process. But if you have any more questions, just let me know and I'll give you a comment.
The time is very tight, still possible. Okay, carry on.
So this back to disassembly. So this disassembly, what it does is based on your disposition code, it reverses the next set of documents, right? So you're removing it as a one serviceable unit, and you have the execution of this repair internally. Then you have child work order set up. So from the initial work order, when you remove the module, you have a module work order that is set up. Or if you think the part has to go for an external, it has to go to an external vendor for repair, then automatically the system generates the repair order transaction. A while ago, we saw what a repair order is, right? So we identify that for each part, we identify if it has to be executed internally or externally. If it's external, you also have the mapped vendors, the approved vendors to whom the part has to be set. Based on that, the repair order transaction is also set up. It will also initiate the scrap from here, or if you'd like to exchange, that is also initiated based on the disposition. Now, all of these removals that have happened automatically queue up in kitting for tracking simultaneously. The moment this has happened, the kitting is informed about these removals and the source of each of these removals, where the part will have to come back from, right? That data is posted for kitting to track the project from there.
For the internal tickers, security models.
So
For the internal tickers.
we generate new orders. We generate new orders.
They say as is for several indicated. So there is a new process. Further process for the investment.
Pretty much. So it goes through the same process. So basically, you have a child work order set up. For that child work order, just like how we did planning for an engine work order, you had like the due list, you had the applicable tasks from there you picked off, right? So the moment you have a child work order for your module or your sub-assemblies incomplete, go back to the same plan work order screen that you were just looking at, the due list. It will still show you the same applicable task, applicable engineering orders. From there you pick, you plan, and you release it, comes back to the same after the CAC. That's why I said it's a wait. So you inspect, you disassemble, have a new order. Once again, plan your task, come back here and inspect, disassemble. So until the last stage, this is a cyclic and iterative process.
Also, that is applicable more or less from an engine and component maintenance is also the routing process. So this is common, right? So in the engine maintenance or component maintenance, you have the items that move from one workshop to another workshop, yes. Or from, let's say, workshop to the dispatch area for subcontracts, from dispatch area to the receiving area once it receives. And same thing in component maintenance goes from, let's say, inspection area to repair area. So there is this cross movement of parts happening within the same domain, right? So for that, what we have also enabled is we have enabled a Route Anywhere mobile app. So this is an app that is useful for track and trace. So at any point, if you want to track the current location or trace or you might have some, routers who would put the item in their bin and then they will be responsible to deliver the part from one workshop to another, right? So all of those processes are enabled using the Route Anywhere. So just give you a quick demonstration of that as well, so that you can see how that particular feature works. This is my Route Anywhere mobile app. Okay, so in the Route Anywhere mobile app, you will be able to see there are three different tabs, pick lists. So what happens is you can select which workshop to workshop you need to enable this process. Let's say, for example, bay one and bay two are next to each other, so you don't want to do routing always for them. But bay one and bay five are like different locations, like one end to another end. So you need someone to pick it up and deliver the part as well, right? So you can say that for those movement, routing has to be enabled. So then what system will do is, the moment a task is finished in bay one or shop one, it will automatically create a pick list document and assign that to the router to now they'll see those items in the pick list. And you can see here in the pick list, you can see that it needs to be delivered from the outcoming area to the receiving area, or like for example, against which particular work order. In Indian work order, it needs to go from outgoing area to incoming work center. So like that, what they can do is they can now select all of those individual work orders. And now then you see on the bottom there's an add to cart. So scan the part, and based on that, what they can do is they can add to cart. The moment they add to the cart, now this is what the item they're holding in their cart, and now they can go to the individual location. Now Ramco also generates the barcode labels for each location. So now what they can do is they can scan on the top. Okay, what is the location? What is the location that I'm standing on? So they can use the barcode, scan the location, and now what they can do is they can now select the item in the cart and select it as delivered. Or they can just scan the location, scan the part, and system will automatically mark the item as delivered. The benefit here is when the part is moving from shop 1 to shop 5, in that you will be able to see the location, saying that it's currently picked up from this location and it's here. So at any point you want to get a traceability of where are my parts, which are neither in the warehouse nor in work center. So now it shows you that they're currently going in transit as well. So like that, what you can do is you can assign that to 5 different routers, 5 people whose responsibility to pick the parts, to have the app in their hands. And then as soon as the items are coming, they get a notification, they go scan, pick, deliver, scan. Seamless process. And that enables you to ensure that this critical routing process is also covered as part of your shop execution process in a digital. You want to understand the routing, this is why this is relevant, right? So that's what this routing process does. And then once they're in progress, the technician will not be able to start their time or book the items because the part is still not reached that workshop for them to do the work as well. So once the item is delivered, the work can then get initiated and then they can start doing their work.
It will be useful for the within work center.
Yeah. Between work centers, between hangars, between shops, warehouse from warehouse to work center. So you have received the part in the incoming area. Now it needs to be delivered to workshop 5 where the task needs to continue. So it will create a routing record from warehouse to work center as well. So like that we'll be able to do the routing. And you can see you can also have like a track record feature where you will be able to track at a level which employee is holding which parts or which parts are with which employee as well. So you can see in the track it will show that who is the person who has the part. So like you just scan here and in the part you see that it was delivered on which date and time. So it gives you a full traceability as well. And then you also have like for example a real-time location tracking that we have enabled using our using geofencing. Now this makes it for RFID. So when you have RFID tags, which displays a real-time location to Ramco, here on the map you'll be able to pinpoint and find out what is the current location even within your work center where you're holding the part as well. If that way, with maps enablement, you're able to trace the real location or the traceability of those items using the route email app as well. I think we can do it. So that's what I have in the routing process. So we'll just finish the.
Can we have the component after lunch? Yeah, for our guy. Yeah.
Seperti biasa di
Oh ya, oke Pak, silakan. Iya Pak, nanti saya kesana.